Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Highlighting Our Stars. Today we have a very special guest. And I wanted to just start off with reminding you all of the focus of this segment. It is pretty much just to highlight those who are already doing the work and using their platforms to make a change in society. So, whether you're in education, politics, any sector that you're in, whatever you're doing to make the world a better place, those are the people who we want to highlight. So I have Pape here, who goes by BDK, and he is an investor. He does some diplomatic work. He's definitely an educator and has excelled in his field. And so I really just wanted to bring Pape to the platform to educate us on his experience, his uncensored journey, and of course, anything that we can learn from you. So welcome, Pape. How are you?
Thank you, mate. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So if you want to take some time to introduce yourself to the people and our viewers and anything you want to highlight.
Yeah, well, in the Senegalese way, I want to thank you for having me in your on your podcast. As you said it, my name is Pape Demba, but most people know me as Pape or PDK. I am an educator, born and raised in Senegal first. I think it's good to underline that. I'm an educator, and I am an instructional coach over at a school, a public charter school named LC with Stokes in Washington D.C. And as you mentioned, I have many other things under my hat, such as being an ambassador for the youth alongside the Nation, and for an organization called the African Leaders Factory Initiative. I'm also an investor. I believe in financial literacy, so I invest a lot into stocks market and also the crypto currencies markets as well. And I also mentor some or a lot of, depending on the number, some high schoolers, kind of telling them or guiding them into knowing their value, knowing their strength and their skills, so they can make their better choices when they go past the high school level. And on certain time, if I have, I don't display it a lot, but I also happen to translate some books for some English authors to French, or from French to English as well. So in a little sum up, that's who I am.
Really? I may need help with that. I've been trying to translate my thesis into French, so my French is horrible. So I might
Okay.
come to you for that part. But yes, thank you for that amazing introduction and letting the people know more about you, all the different nuances. So I do want to start off with understanding more about you, your background. So you already mentioned that you were born and raised in Senegal. How was that experience?
Yeah, I'd say being born and raised in Senegal and absolutely never thinking that I would leave the country, kind of influence a lot into my beliefs in our values, my beliefs in our core democracy, and also let's say our way of life in Senegal. Both of my parents, they were in the administration. So growing up was, I would say, a little bit easy and not easy, because as administrators in Senegal, every 2 to 4 years you have to move around the country. So every time as a child, going and having friends, and getting acclimated to the environment and having to move, I could not really understand that. But at some point, kind of looking at it, that's how I was able to have a multitude of values and beliefs, because I moved from one country to another, and
Oh,
moved from one country to another as well, and met a lot of communities that made who I am. As far as background, I, like most of the Senegalese over there, came from the public area, but sometimes you jump from public schools to private schools.
yeah.
Um, but pretty much, having spent most of my time between Dakar and Bour, I would say in Bour and Sali specifically, that's where I graduated from high school, and then joined the Cheikh Anta Diop University, kind of following their human sciences. In the middle of that um, time of my life, that's where I kind of underwent and jumped into the education field. So starting in Senegal in the education field, especially when you're working for the government,
Yeah.
you always are sent in the most far remote areas in the country and in a village. So I had to leave my comfort zone, and first time ever going and living in a village. So I had to stop there. That's how I moved from Cheikh Anta Diop University to go into Gaston Berger University, which is a little bit north of Senegal, and continued my studies there. So pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much how I was born and raised in Senegal, and of course, we can get into the details later.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to come back to talk about your remote experience, but you mentioned that your family was in administration. I'm assuming you meaning in government or politics.
Yeah, in government, my dad is what you may call an economic controller. So that would be the kind of the equivalent of working in IRS. My mom
Nice.
also has always been in education. My dad did start in education, but he did not last long over there. So he moved onto being an administrator. So it was kind of like moving from one hand to another.
Mhm.
A lot of people say that's how I got the virus of being a teacher, which, by the way, for the anecdote, I never thought I would be in the education field.
Never thought you'd be in education?
Not really. I kind of jumped to it. People were always telling me that I had a talent into it because being in high school, I was very, very, very highly involved in side activities such as joining the English clubs and all of that. So
Mhm.
basically, there was a time in Senegal, a period of time like 5, 7 years, where English clubs were really the thing in Senegal. And being in a high school of 4,000 students, being there, and me really liking the American culture, really liking the English language, we were able to develop a great network of English clubs over there. So basically, being there, it was just mentoring the kids because the the way we're teaching in Senegal is mostly very vertical, just from the teacher to the student. There's
It is.
not so much, yeah, chances of like them really learning the language through the culture, learning the language while having fun. So that's basically what we were bringing. So you go to your classes, you learn grammar, you learn anything that's related to the function of the language over there. But you come to our English clubs, it's just like learning through having fun, songs, plays, movies, and having going to other English clubs as well, and having some contests over there.
Mm.
So just one day we're having a game called the hot chair. It's just you and I, me sitting down in the chair and getting asked questions, and
Wow.
that's something
So
I
this
would
is
never.
for you.
Yeah, that's something I would never forget. Someone literally told me, "Hey, do you envision on being a teacher at the time?" I was like, nah, that's not for me. But he's like, yeah, I definitely see you into being it. And fast forward a few years later, I still remember that, and I wish I could meet that person and tell him, hey, I don't know whatever you saw in me, but it worked pretty much fine.
Yeah, and honestly, that's really how I was introduced to your social media is because you were teaching so much about investing. And I think I saw you on a live where you were talking about Bitcoin and investing. And I was like, this isn't really a topic that I get into. I'm also an educator, but it was really the investing part and understanding the financial literacy that I think you as an educator, it's always going to be a, a great point because you know how to break down the topics and really get people to understand and not trying to make it such a complex topic where people can't really grasp the material in whatever sector you are, whether it's politics, education. So I do want to get back because you said that you traveled to different countries, different areas of Senegal. So I want to learn more about what are those different countries that you went to and how how did that maybe perspective impact the way you are now? Is there like life lessons that you learned with interacting with these different populations? How was that experience?
Um, it was eye-opening. It was not more. It was just like the countries around the country, like Mauritania, Mali, Guinea, and Gambia. Sometimes, but I would say the one that really impacted me was really going in other different areas of Senegal, because there is that um, smoke screen, if I can say, like quote unquote, where a lot of people will just look at Dakar, the capital of Senegal, and kind of think or project that the life how it is happening in Dakar is happening everywhere else around the country, and it's not that. it's not that way, because going in the car is more like city style. A lot of people, everybody's living for themselves, if that makes sense. Everybody's just being socially more and more separated. In the opposite, when you go to villages or you go to other communities over there, you really get a sense of what makes a community. People coming together all the time, people knowing each other, and it goes to a point where actually my child can be raised by someone else that's just my neighbor, and we don't really have family ties. And that's something I really really learned and appreciated, and mostly despite the level of poverty that is in being in there, despite the level of uncertainty or not them having access to the basic needs of modern society,
Yeah.
you never see them complaining. They always smiling. You come there, they welcome you. As long as you are sitting with them and sharing what they have to offer, I think you can
Mhm.
learn a lot from them. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So we already shared about like the pivotal moment within your childhood. So I want to get into education.
Yes.
So I did see that in 2022 you won the prestigious Teacher of the Year award, and I want to congratulate you on that. That's an amazing accomplishment. And so I want to kind of talk about your experience up to that award. Of course, like your educational experience and then getting into teaching. So you already said that you attended Sheikh Anta Diop. What degree were you pursuing there?
Um, Human sciences. If I'm not sure if there is equivalent in here, but it was mostly human science, learning languages and how society's evolution and a little bit of history, and just translating that into education. So
Like
from there,
anthropology.
yeah, and the part, yeah, and then from there, I believe in Senegal, most of the teachers, I would say 90% of the teacher or 95 or so, are working for the government. We're like public servants. But to get there is really the tricky part, because you have to go under three different types of contests. So getting there is not easy at all. We
Mhm.
were, my generation, I believe we were 43,000 candidates to kind of postulate to be teachers, and they were just about to choose, I think, around 1,800, I believe so. So it was really hard. We went 3 rounds. So going there, that was a first feeling of achievement, and knowing that amongst a lot of peers who are not really under, or who we should not underestimate, because each one of us came without degree, without skills, without knowledge, but being lucky to be part of that cohort was really something for me. And like I said earlier,
Amazing
when
accomplishment.
yeah, when I got it, I was happy. My parents were happy. Well, they're the one that really pushed me into education, because they believe in, which is true. Being an educator, you are never far away from getting knowledge, because for you to move up, you always got to seek knowledge. You always got to make sure that you're progressing in the area that you are being. So just for you, is something that's going to benefit you for life. And I'm not even talking about the fact of sharing knowledge to others, which is something that has always been in me.
Mm.
So passing that contest, and fast forward 1 to 2 years of hard and intense training, I was
Mhm.
sent to a very remote village up in the north east of Senegal. It was a shock. It
How was
was
that? So you were teaching in the village, right?
in the village, yeah.
How was
Fast
that?
it was at the very first beginning, it was a shock, because like I said, I never left the city. Going to a village where you have to get out of the road and walk 6 miles to get into that village, it was shocking. And I'm not saying you walking through other villages, you literally walking through the woods, like literally. um, Going in there, the village only had access to water during that time. They did not have access to electricity. So for me to charge my phone, I had to walk. 6 miles to go back to the road, but walk another 4 miles to get to the closest village that had electricity to charge my phone or to watch games or to play soccer as usual. So it was a big shock. Uh,
What village is this?
it was called Dumgel that day. It is up north. The biggest or the most famous area close to that would be Area Lao. I'm not sure if you. It's just like right after Podor. You ever heard of Podor, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right after Podor, but you have to get out of the road and then just walk inside in the
Yeah.
heart. Yeah.
So, wow. Okay, so you really you got the I feel like you have a very interesting and challenging teaching experience in Senegal because not only are you here to teach, but you have to teach in maybe an unconventional way of with the challenges of the resources that's available to them, lack of electricity, but having water. So first I want to ask what was your favorite part of teaching there and then a challenge. So what was your favorite part?
My favorite part was, I would say, there is the first visible part was like literally being able to go and see what is really happening in Senegal because politic wise, societal choice wise, like it really opened my eyes on what should be my priorities and how I can help my community.
Yeah.
Being there, like I said, them not having so much of access to the foundational of on the pyramidal scale of Maslow, but
Mm,
always having a smile on their faces, always welcoming me because they knew that we were coming actually to just bring knowledge to their kids, so that later they can thrive and then bring something to their village. That was one part. Another part is like I said at the very first beginning, I was questioning though, even though I like teaching, I was questioning myself, like, is this really the best choice for me? If I stay away from the city, how am I going to develop those opportunities? But like we say, when God wants to do good, he will make it look like he's actually messing up, and that
yeah.
really worked because me, I'm the type of person when I see a problem, I'm just not gonna say, "Oh, this is a problem," so I'm just gonna stop here. But I'm always gonna try to find solutions. So
Yeah.
being there, we did not have enough materials. We did not have electricity, not enough books, not even enough chalk to write on the board. So literally at that time, also politic wise, it was really hard because teachers were going on strike all the time because they wanted a condition, they wanted more money and all of that. But me, I was having a different approach because when I looked at the results that we were having national wise, it wasn't that good because we were below the 50% chances, below the 50% success rate when it came to uh,
Yeah.
people passing the exam of fifth grade. And I was like, when we went to the syndicate, I was like, hey, look at it this way. We want more money, we want better condition, but are we really putting in the work to kind of sit at the table and ask for something? I
Yeah.
believe if we want to have more money, if we want the parents on our side, if we want the society on our side, we should be able to bring these results up. Once we bring these results up, the government or the politician, they will not have no arguments against us. It wasn't
Mm,
the most famous ideas at the time, but I took it upon me. I believed in myself. So what I did was really try to find partners within my network area, try to create some little fundraise here and there to get some more money, a little bit of money. And once I got that money, I kind of went and funded to buy a solar panel to kind of like have at least some
what?
light, some electricity in our school. Eh, That's
What?
yeah.
That's
I'm like,
amazing.
yeah. Look at it this way: either way or not, I'm going to be in the school. These kids
Right.
are coming. So it is up to me to choose if I'm going to do this work easily or if I'm going to do it the hard way. So since I have
Mm,
the mindset to think about it, these people in the village, they did not, it's not their fault that they did not have anything. Somebody should have provided that. Maybe they're not known, maybe they're not heard, whatever, but as long as I have the possibility to help, I'm just going to get up and do it. I'm not going to wait for somebody else to do it from my community. So definitely that created a big impact on the kids because over there also is sad that we're still seeing it. It was in 2014, 2015, I believe. It was still sad that we're seeing it, but there's still some problems when it comes to the education of youth. Most of the
That was
people,
my next point.
yeah, and
What do you think,
especially,
yeah. What do you think? My next question was going to be, what do you think are like the top two, or it could be just the top two you want to highlight challenges of the Senegalese education system, and how do you think it can be improved? Like improved?
yeah. Um, One of them is the involvement of the parents, because literally I could tell you I had a classes of only girls. They were the brightest, the smartest people I've ever met. And I moved with them. Like I did 3 years in Senegal before I moved in here. And I had so many challenges because I'm even ashamed telling that as a Senegalese. Like they were under 15 years old, and one day I literally had to go to the police station to report someone because um, one of the girls, their dad, just came and said out of the blue that she was going to get married, and I
Yeah,
was not on my watch. Most of them, what they were really looking for is just for their child to be able to read and learn, so they can read their letters, so they can just go do some math at the shop and then come back. And I was like, no, this is not how we're supposed to do it. They're supposed to go continue their education so they can get the right resources and the right mean to come to your village and make it a better place. Of course, you living of farming, you living of rudimentary things, but it does not have to stop here. Of course, it is part of your customs, it's part of your culture, but you can be modern while staying in your culture. So that was a big. Literally, I used to have to fight parents just to have those extra hours for them to talk. On the other side, the biggest challenge we're facing, I think, is the way we're teaching. Literally, let's face it, is the way we're teaching.
are you
Uh,
talking about the language, the curriculum, or the teaching style?
the whole overarching body. The
I agree with you.
child, the language is a problem.
Yeah,
The um, the curriculum. Well, the curriculum on the paper, let's say it looks good because we moved from teaching to memorize to teaching for the competencies. If I'm teaching you about, let's say, soccer, I have to bring a soccer ball and teach you about that. If I have to teach you about money, I have to bring money and teach you about that. But we are not really equipped to do that because think about it. We have one book, one curriculum book for the entire country. What you see in Senegal, you see their cars, you see their airplanes, you see their people with phones and TVs and all of that. You go to a village where I was, for example, I needed to teach them the concept of TV. We don't have electricity. How am I going to teach them that? Or you want to teach them about the car, or you want to teach them about an airplane. And I can tell you, those kids, there were 3 to 4 kids over there from the moment they were born to where they were with me, they never set a foot outside of their village. So how are they going to learn all of that? So it's really on the paper is good, yeah, but we don't have enough conditions, the right conditions to kind of like implement those. And I was actually lucky because at least I had a place that I could call a classroom. But other people, like literally, you go inside, they are sitting on piece of rocks just to learn. So they're willing to, but it's just the curriculum. First of all, we're doing more learning facts in the contents. We're doing more learning facts about history and all of that than actually learning how to thrive. I'm gonna just give you a quick example. You and I, we're on the same generation. If I raise Warren Buffett, you'll be able to talk about him. If I raise Michelle Obama, you'll be able to talk about her. If I raise someone like Chonya, you'll be able to talk about her because we see them on a daily basis doing things. We live with them, the current events that are happening throughout the world. So we can definitely take them as examples, or we can use their 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 way of life to kind of like take it. Either we take it and we learn from it, or either we take it and we take it further. But if I said Leopold Sedar Senghor, what could you tell me about Leopold Sedar Senghor beside the historical facts about Leopold Sedar Senghor? If I tell you Sun Tzu, if I tell you, I don't know, George W. Mr. Bush, the president, first generation, you will be able just to give me historical facts. And in Senegal, we're still learning about people about the past. I'm not saying it's not good, but we're giving too much priority to that. And literally, what we should be learning right now in the actual current world we're living. First, it's about financial freedom. It's about loving your country. It's about taking examples on the people you are with you are living in the same generation with. And unfortunately, we have not understood that yet. And as you mentioned, also there's the language, which should be a bridge really between cultures, but in Senegal, it's really a challenge because people are trying to learn how to count, or they're trying to learn certain concept in a language that they don't really understand. And if they fail into that, we put the blame on them just because they're not able to learn that in their language. Whether you give a kid, like literally here in, like in Senegal, you give a 7-year old, you give them 5,000 francs CFA, you send them to the shop, they will be able to shop for you and come back and do the math right because they're doing it in their language. But if they don't do it in the classroom in French, it's a failure, and which is not fair to them as well. So those are part
No,
of the challenges we should tackle.
those are some really great points you brought up. And I found it interesting that the first thing you thought of was with the challenges of the Senegalese education system was the involvement of parents. Because when I did my master's thesis, my primary focus was like Senegal's education system. And I had to break it down into three sectors, which was the institutional part of it, the
Yeah.
politics, and the culture. And one of the most challenging parts with like how the culture influences a child's education, it's really because of like interpretation of religion and what that means. And so thinking that a woman should be married a virgin, that now translates into you need to be married by whatever earliest age I think is appropriate, on top of the fact of like men and women being valued differently or valued differently in certain ways, and really investing in women's education was lacking in some rural areas.
Mhm.
In general, uh, most women in Senegal are really ambitious when it comes to the education, but when you really dive deep into the rural spaces, their education is seen more valuable in different areas of like how can you be the best wife, how can you be the best mother. And so I found it interesting that the first thing you mentioned was the parents' involvement because it's a huge influence in how much education a girl or a woman has. And then, like, the second part of it was the institutional. Like, how is the school structured where, like, women and girls don't have the necessary materials they need, whether it's hygiene materials or, maybe missing like student absenteeism, missing some days of class because of menstrual, and your professor embarrassing you in front of the class because of that. So it really does go back to the teaching style and teacher trainings. How can we better prepare teachers to be able to interact with this demographic or population? So I thought you brought up some really great points. How do you what do you think the solutions are? How do you think the government can address the challenges within the education system?
Um, like humbly reform the entire education system. That's something I'm working on, and probably towards the end we'll talk about that. We literally need to revamp the guiding principles. We need to revamp how we approaching teaching. We need to rethink what is teaching. Teaching doesn't just limit to teaching 1 plus 1 is 2. I am, and all of that. Like we said in the beginning, you are an educator, I'm an educator, but where you are really most qualified is not probably where I am. I'm an educator, I can teach you about language, I can teach you about math, but I also can teach you about other things in life, just like investments and how we should live by society or way of lives. Um, Being an educator is a broader thing where the teacher is one part of the puzzle, but like you said, the society has to come in, the parents have to come in, the politics, we have to have the will to really detach ourselves from the really colonial structure that we were learning, because the way our grandparents were learning is still the same way we are learning, and the world is evolving. When they were learning, we did not have computers, we did not have cell phones, we did not have so much access to the information. Right now, you can have access to the information anywhere. I can tell you, like, literally another time when we will talk about the UN stuff, and how I took the what we're doing in the African Leaders Factory initiative to a whole another level. So coming
Yeah.
back, the basic of the foundations of how we're teaching and what we are teaching. What we are teaching has to be meaningful. What we are teaching in schools has to not only benefit the kids in the school, but when they go outside as well, and make sure that the parents are involved, because we're talking about education in a general sense. You spend 8 hours in the school, you spend the next 16 hours with your parents, and if there is not a continuity into what they're learning at home and what they're learning in the school, there's going to be something that's like bricks. And that's why we're seeing so much confused people in Senegal right now, because every time the parents are, I would say our society is unfairly telling the kids all the time, oh, you guys are bad, you guys are doing only bad stuff and all of that. But are we really taking our time to kind of think about how we are making them analyze and prioritize the information they're getting, especially with the internet? Because there's a lot of stuff. The same way you can take the internet and make it a strength, the same way it can destroy you if you don't know how to use it. But I feel like we're not taking our time to look at those foundations, and then unfortunately, when something happens, we just blame the younger generations.
Right, right. No, that's a really great point. So I want to get into your advocacy and diplomacy work. I want to first hear about the organizations that you work with. I know you've mentioned the African Leader Institute and or initiative, and I want to learn more about that and your involvement with the United Nations and SDGs.
Yeah. So the my journey really started with the African Leaders Factory Initiative, which is an organization that was created by one of my brothers, Babakar Jr. Job. Telling him hi, by the way. Um,
Oh,
it came with
oh,
the same. Huh?
I think I know him. I feel like
Yeah,
I haven't worked with him.
he's pretty active on social medias, and like literally, it came from a the same observation that we all do make. Literally, we have a youth, a generation that is very talented and bright, but unfortunately, either some of them fail at putting into place structures or startups that work, or some of them don't even know where to start. So literally looking at that and having the same mindset, which is you see a problem, try to think about the solution before you start blaming anyone. So literally coming from that, it was created and geared towards empowering youth, empowering education, and making sure entrepreneurship is part of the developmental process of Senegal. So we created that, and going from one activity to another, that's how we got into partnering with the United Nations, because our goal perfectly matched the SDG goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, by 2030, and we're working with them closely into closing that gap, not only in Senegal right now, but throughout the world. Because before we were just a local, we were just acting in Senegal, and every year we do what we call the African Leaders Factory Initiative Fellowship, which gathers any youth, any young people that is interested into growing their business, or
Okay.
starting a new business, or you just interested into learning but you don't know where to start. So different levels of entry point. And we were doing it in Senegal every year, so we'll gather them and we will bring in coaches that will have sessions with them and teaching them about how to start a business, or if you already started a business, how to reach a wider audience, or how to reach these markets, and literally kind of empower entrepreneurship in there. And I remember when we came in 2020, that's the year that I was the executive director there.
Okay.
We were supposed to do it, but unfortunately, when COVID hit, everything was closed. And again, I said, there's a problem, there's always a solution. Actually, instead of seeing it like a challenge, I was like, this could be an occasion or a chance for us to kind of make it broader, because we have internet, we have Zoom, there is no limit of times and space. So we literally, instead of trying to find where we can do it in a closed space, no, let's open it up to the world. So
Mm.
that year in 2020, 2021, we opened it up and we had youth from Mali, Gambia, Portugal, Brazil, I'm thinking Spain, France, and the United States. It was a big cohort, more than 700 people. We gathered and we had an intense 1 week of training where we were just talking about entrepreneurship, where we were just talking about transformative leadership. And those youths will later on join the alumni fellowship. So we keep that networking, and still now there are magnificent projects and partnerships that are arising from that. And that has been a great example there to set that um, everything, the information is here. All we have to do is go look for it and know how to filter it. And
Right.
we started there, and with the UN, of course, as an educator, whenever they have an event which talks about the sustainable goals, especially the education part, equity access to education, and how we can make education a strength, and how we can filter, like I'm always repeating, how we can filter all the information and make sure people are getting accurate and real information instead of in talks. And really, like how the world is crazy right now, like with AI coming, you hardly can
Uh,
notice what is true and what is not, like literally. So whenever those events happen, we just gather and come there as speakers or just participate in those events.
yeah. No, that's a really good point. And one of my research focus is how does social media, artificial intelligence enhances youth involvement or participation within the political space? So I definitely think artificial intelligence has a major impact on how people perceive data. So I did see that you were able to participate in the SDGs Impact Week with
Mhm.
with the organization. And so I wanted to ask, what are the specific SDGs you all are focused on, and what are some initiatives outside of the one you just named with the training? What are some initiatives that the organization is working on
Yeah,
or doing?
definitely. Beside the education part, we had a really productive session with, I would say, 80 mayors from around the world, including the mayor of New York, where we were talking about sustainable energy. That's a big take also in Africa, in African Leaders Factory Initiative. We really coming from the idea of like supplying schools and houses into clean energy where they cannot be reached by the governments or the public electric companies. So what we do is like we do fundings and we try to buy some solar panels, kind of bringing that energy into some of the homes and the village. So our goal is to literally empower and light at least 10,000 houses in Senegal. And if we can, we're thinking about reaching out in other countries as well, Mali, Guinea, by
Mhm.
2030. And that session with those mayors were very productive because each one of them were bringing ways they're tackling that problems. And we were surprised to see that it's not just some part of in Africa, but North America, even South America, they have that same issue
Yeah,
as yeah. And literally, if they cannot, since it's very costly and also energy draining, and we're talking about fossils and all of that, is it's very complex to kind of bring the traditional electricity as we know it. But if we have some really great startups that are geared towards sustainable energies, so we really take an advantage of that and absolutely reach out to those people, because you never know how it can change somebody's life or how it can change a community life. So definitely that is another aspect we are working on, and we are confident that by 2030 we will be able to electrify at least 10,000 houses in Senegal and possibly in other zones in Africa.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And please let me know how I can support with that initiative. So for those who are interested in learning more about this organization, can you let them know where to find, where their website or social media?
Absolutely. Right now we have open the the doors to anybody that wants to join. You don't necessarily have to have any experience into this type of work. You come in, you will be matched with mentors, you will be matched with people that will absolutely explain to you. All we are asking from you is just the will to serve your community, the will to progress and progress together. So people can go to our website alfie.org. Once you go there, you can sign up and apply, answer a few questions, and we'll be in touch with you. So you definitely can join the movement as we are going.
Great. And I will put the link below somewhere on this screen so you all can go right there.
And we
So,
also Instagram Alfie Alfie ALFI. You just type it on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We everywhere, so it's easy to reach us. Our answer time doesn't go past 24 hours, so definitely we encourage anyone that would like to join the movement.
that's amazing. Okay, so we were able to talk about your experience teaching in Senegal, but before moving on to Samahalat segment, I want to learn more about what do you think is the difference between your experience teaching in Senegal and your experience teaching in the USA
Oh boy,
now?
it it's like the day and this day and night. Teaching in Senegal is like it was so hard in Senegal teaching that coming in here, not saying it was easy, but it in terms of condition where I even had to rewire my brain because in Senegal you have to do so much with so little that when I came here, I have to always remind myself that I have so much
Yeah,
resources around me.
more resources.
Yeah, of course it was hard because coming in here, the education system is completely different. The curriculums are different, like everything was different. So literally what I came with was just my pedagogy, knowing general knowledge of pedagogy, but I literally had to work double to kind of catch up with people. And that was a goal that I gave to myself because as you know, whenever you come to a new country, not to say that it's just in America, but whenever you come to a new country, sometimes there are misjudgment. Just because you come from Africa, you're not supposed to be smart. Just because you come from Africa, you're not supposed to be knowledgeable. Just
Stereotype.
Africa, like people literally just wouldn't even trust me with their phones. So seeing that, I was like, okay, that's what you do. I give myself 2 years, so really 2 years where I really work hard to understand the curriculum, really work hard to understand the American approach, which is very complex because you can have two schools next to each other and they're using completely different curriculums. So you always got
Yeah,
to keep getting yourself. It wasn't easy. I had to prove to myself. I have to prove it to other, but I say Alhamdulillah because merely 3 4 years after being awarded the Teacher of the Year award is kind of like a culmination of all those efforts that I did just to master that and be at the level of my colleagues because I didn't want to be behind and I wanted to learn as much as I can so it can benefit me and benefit the students that I'm working with.
yeah. And so, what is your teaching focus here? What subject do you teach?
Oh, right now I'm not teaching anymore. I'm actually an instructional coach. I am coaching the teachers. So I moved up. But before it was just general education. I was working to K to 6.
Mhm.
So that was my area of focus. But definitely right now I'm more of outside of the classroom, just supporting teachers and kind of like letting the place to my young other brothers and sisters so they can come in and also exert their skills and just us as a body, we can take the kids up and further.
Okay, so last question on the topic. What do you think was your most pivotal experience with teaching in the US? Maybe something that reshaped your mindset or something that really motivated you to maybe
Mm,
challenge yourself. So, what was that experience, whether with students or teachers, whoever?
I would say two part. The first thing is how individualized teaching can be in here. Like I said,
Mhm.
inside it's one curriculum for everybody, but here, two schools, two different curriculums, but mostly how we take our time every week to meet about every student because we
Mhm.
build. people have different ways of learning, and that should be a strength but not a challenge. You probably heard of people saying, "Oh, I learn better when I listen," or "I learn better with visuals," or "I learn better while manipulating." All of those are different ways of how people, we all learn throughout our senses, but there are some preferences, or there are some areas where we tend to be to get the information in an easier way. So meeting for each one of those students and regularly updating the way they're learning, which means regularly updating the way we're teaching, that was something that really changed my mind. If I When I started early, you could have told me that I would have like, it's impossible to do so. But the mindset is, whatever we want to achieve, we can do it. The other thing is the level of opportunity you get assigned here, because we always talk about, really, people see when we have successes, people see our wins, but in Senegal we barely talk about who is behind, or the people that are behind us and pushing us in and kind of like showing us the way. So in Senegal, like I said, you start in a very remote area, and if you want to go back to the city, you have to wait for years. There are people that wait 10, 12 years just to be able to get back to the city to get those level of opportunity. So it absolutely takes time career-wise to evolve in there. But here, in the span of 5 years, whatever I was able to do, I probably would have been able to do it in Senegal in 30 years. And here, people will see you. If they see talent in you and they see dedication in you, they will be behind, they will push you, they will mentor you. And I think we don't talk about that enough in Senegal. That's why people are so confused, because they will see people win and they think they
Yeah.
did it on, or they did it all. No, we always have someone that is inspiring us. We always have people that are behind us and pushing us. So being able to move how I want it, depending on my levels of skills and my dedication, that was something that really struck me. And I wish we had the same thing in Senegal, because most of the time, a lot of youth people are just discouraged when they see how much or how long they have to do something in order to kind of get what they want. And it's part of the things that are really making people not really involved or willing to do so much sacrifices, because they just asking themselves, I'm doing this, but what is going to be the end game? And those are two things that really struck me in here.
No, that's definitely, you highlighted a major component to the reason why I established highlighting our stars, is because oftentimes we don't see people on their journey. We see people when they reach their pinnacle or their peak of success, and you're trying to figure out, what did they do to get there? What are some things that they were involved in? And you don't really have that understanding, or just a mentor to reach out to for the advice on, what should I do? What steps should I take? And so being able to connect back with those who are making a positive impact in society is extremely important. And I'm sure those who are listening will be able to think through maybe some of the steps that PDK went through, and
Mm.
saying, okay, here are my next steps. Here are things to avoid, and here maybe they won't be challenged, or not won't shy away from going to teach in a rural area, because that really developed your mindset and framing you to teach in a certain style that helped out other students later on. So that's definitely a reason why this show is here, and I thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna move into the Samahalat section, which is really where we discuss more about topics about related to Senegal in Wolof, or mixing it Wolof and English. Some Wolof mo noonu, so all right. So welcome to Suñu Xalaat, mooy segment boo xam ne dañuy xool different situation yi nekk Sénégal pour wax leen lan mooy suñu xalaat. So dama invité Pape, mooy PDK. Pape dafa nekk educator, day jàngale, dafay also def ay investment ci Sénégal, outside of Sénégal. So li ma la bëgg a njëkk a laaj mooy, lan mooy sa xalaat ci politique bi nekk Sénégal, and lan nga yaakaar mooy like a challenge wala problème bu ñu am.
Um, Merci si question bi. Gis naa la sax bi nga posé question bi nga xaw a smile ma smile, parce que ndax politique dëggantaan am na Sénégal. Tellement, il faut le dire, dafa comme game requin like dafa metti mën naa wax ni these last 2 years ñaari at yu mujju romb nii wala ba ñetti at sax des fois da ngay rus sax nekk fii di wax ne sénégalais nga ak nit ñu doon taggee ci démocratie ak nit ñu doon taggee ci unité ak nit ñu doon taggee en tant que exemple maa ngi gis ne politique léegi dafa dem ba doon loo xamante ne ku daax gor ku daax kët sa tànku morom ci suuf mooy li nga xamante ne dafay am et loolu baaxul pour ñun parce que déjà gisatuñ suñu bopp ci politique bi et du lu baax pour avenir bi parce que événement yi nga xamante ne mu ngi nekk di xew day set précédent yoo xamante ne après lu waay neex day def te bu ñu waxee dañ naan garaawal parce que on a vu pur
Yeah.
am it we had dañu am situation bu métti boo xamante ne dañu am benn président mu nekk ak en discorde ak benn opposant ki nga xamante ne mooy premier opposant bi ba mën nañ gis ne du moom kese sax mais nit ñi di génn di manifester pour seeni droit yi nga xamante ne moo gën a commun da ngay gis nit ki war a génn war a protest ñu lay dóor di ci rey ay nit di ci jël ay nit tëj leen juste parce que xàmmee naa la amuñ benn preuve buñ ci jël ay xale yu ndaw teg leen en tant que barrière humaine ce sont des choses yoo xamante ne yaakaar naa ne duma ko mës a gis sama dëkk et ça fait extrêmement mal et doon na loo xamante ne baaxul pour ñun mais en même temps da ngay dem ba da ngay décourager en fait parce que da ngay yor projet yu bari nga bëgg a dellu Sénégal pour bokk kook say morom pour bokk kook say père ak say mère pour bokk kook say rak mais da nga naan est-ce que lii jar na ko en fait da nga naan damay ñàkk sama temps parce que yaa ngi nekk fii au calme di nekk fii ci condition yu baax mën nga ko dund mais à chaque fois da ngay bëgg a dellu Sénégal mais pour nga def ko parce que déjà en tant que sénégalais nga dellu Sénégal pour def benn business moo gën a metti que beneen étranger ñëw Sénégal pour def business am dañ koy ubbil bunt yi mais ñun bu dee ñun la dañ ñu koy mettil et ça c'est alarmant mais en même temps da nga naan su ma toogee sama côté man kese actuellement ni ma amee xalaat ne dëkk bi doxul am na keneen koo xamante ne moom mu ngi toog di xool naka lay def ba doon dugg ci système boobu noonu pour lekk xaalisam nekk benn nit bu selfish so benn éternel recommencement lay doon so at some point da ngay toog nga xalaat nga ne su fekkee man toog naa fii defuma dara est-ce que dina changer situation bi et je pense que ñu ci bëri ci ñun loolu lay def da ngay xëy benn bés nga mere nga ne like bëggatuma sax dégg wax dara ci Sénégal mais après da ngay toog nga ne lii jaru ko parce que suñu dëkk la ñun ñëpp ñoo ko bokk te amuñu droit wala war nañ am sañ-sañ bu gisee nit koo xamante ne mu ngi def loo xamante ne mu ngi naxasal suñu dëkk ñu jël ci wax ci mais doon na loo xamante ne metti na ma trop jël nañu action yu bëri def ko ci mais da ngay jàpp ne que ce n'est pas très du doon lu enough parce que bi muy door a commencé et je pense c'était en 2021 gisee nit ñu leen di rey mu metti ñu trop lu ma njëkk a xalaat mooy jël benn lettre bind ko jox ko président Biden parce que at the same ñi nekkee di wër naan waaye kenn warul dugg suñu politics kenn warul dugg suñu politics mais da ngay dem ba benn instant sax doo xamati fooy wootee wàllu en fait dootoo xamati fan ngay xoole léegi seule solution bi ñu gisoon mooy bind lettre yónnee ko Biden in fortunately or unfortunately or sadly ñu bindee lettre bi tak yaa après deux jours si lañ gis ambassade États-Unis bu nekk Sénégal génne communiqué si la ñuy door a arrêté li ñuy def donc ça ñun population bu ñuy wax ak suñuy gouvernants yi seen yoon nekku ci mais bu beneen nit boo xamante ne benn puissance étrangère la bu ñuy wax ak ñoom si la ñuy door a déglu et loolu ça fait extrêmement mal et j'espère que dinañ jël action yoo xamante ne après dinañ ko ci jëlee quoi.
bëggoon naa ñëwaat ci lettre bi nga bind Biden because gisoon naa réponse bi la administration bi jox mais avant ñu egg ci loolu dama bëgg nga expliquer Sénégalais yow yaay kan sa expérience Sénégal ci politique bi après ñu continuer suñu waxtaan.
Yeah pour dellu sama name Pape Demba kan la mais nit ñu bëri ñu ngi may xamee PDK et nu nga ko waxee Educator la maa ngi nekk benn instructional coach mooy maanaam ñi nga xam ne ñoo jàngale dañ leen di ñun ñoo leen di coacher di leen guide di leen wormal di leen wan nan la ñuy def ba évoluer ci seen jàngale nekkoon naa Educator nekkoon naa jàngalekat pendant 5-7 ans donc léegi si laa nekk maa ngi nekk aussi investisseur ci stock market yi ak crypto market yi maa ngi nekk kuy di translate xam nga nu ñu koy waxee ci wolof mais kuy di traduire ay livres des fois su ma amee jot su ma ko jot bi mayee pour ay quelques auteurs soit anglais français ou bien français anglais maa ngi nekk aussi ambassadeur des jeunes auprès de l'ONU ci en fonction ci benn organisation bu ñuy wax African Leaders Factory Initiative maintenant bu dee lu jëm ci politique bi comme nu ma ko waxee au début bu ñu waxee Sénégal politique da ngay xalaat li ngay njëkk a xalaat mooy ñi nekk ci télé bi di xastante suba ngoon mooy ñi nekk di dem di wër nguur gi mooy ñi nga xam ne dañuy nekk di juste occuper ay poste nekk ministre et cetera mais man sama vision politique ça dépasse ça te man politique damay dellu à la base mooy l'art de gérer la cité ni ñuy gérer suñu société ñun ñëpp et dama jàpp que ne ni président amee rôle ci dëkk bi ministre amee ko rôle policier bi amee ko rôle noonu laa ko amee rôle keneen ak keneen amee ko rôle yeah li may wax sama jeunes yi may mentor tout le temps mooy que nit bu ñëw ne la bu ngeen ma falee dinaa développer dëkk bi kooku bu leen ko waxee tourné leen ngeen ne ko su booxul ma la ngeen dem seen parce que amul benn nit boo xamante ne moom kese mën na développer dëkk président bu ñëwee wala leader bu ñëwee dafay créer condition yi nga xamante ne nit ñi dinañ mën a dem ñoom ñooy yi nga xam ne dañuy développer dëkk bi donc foog loolu ñu koy xool bu baax donc man li ma choisir mooy sama niveau fi ma toll communauté yi nga xamante ne ñoom laa gën a jegeel may def ay action yoo xamante ne dinañ mën a jóg ñu thrive après ñu dem nekk ci leneen parce que comme pyramide laa ko gisee man su ma ñëwee nit influence man war naa mën a influencer yeneen ñaari ça fait 3 personnes def na 3 personnes ñaari personnes yooyu mën nañ influencer ku nekk ci ñoom 4 yeneen nit 8 plus 3 léegi looy gën di dem ku nekk day dem ba benn branche comme gisee leen ko benn toile araignée boo xamante ne looy gën a influencer nit ngay gën a am nit yoo xamante ne ñoom tam dañ leen di influencer te noonu la ñuy demee ba am benn sensibilisation collective ñun ñëpp ñu jugandoo xam suñu valeur xam li nga xamante ne mooy suñu skills te ñu apply ko dem di compétir ci monde bi comme ñëpp luñ koy defee parce que foofu laay indee boo seetloo benn affaire dañ naan la Sénégal dañoo tayal bëgg ñu liggéey seen xel neexul na dañu naa like am na préjugés yu bari yu ñuy def mais ñaata sénégalais ñoo nekk extérieur nga leen di dégg tout le temps ñuy rayonner à travers le monde muy yow muy man muy keneen ak keneen fi ñi nga xamante ne foofu la ñuy liggéeyee buñ doon cité ñi nga xamante ne ñoo gën a productif ñi nga xam ne ñoo gën a am ay leadership skills ñi nga xam ne ñoo gën a gëm liggéey ñi nga xam ne ñoo gën a open socially ñi nga xam ne ñoo gën a culturellement ñoo gën a aware top 5 yi chaque fois sénégalais da ciy bokk mais comme fait sénégalais yi condition foofu noonu ñu nekk ñi nga xam ne ñu ngi leen di gis di leen ràññee mais buñ demee Sénégal mënuñ thrive ça veut juste dire que condition yi ñu nekkee moo leen dul permettre ñuy thrive parce que fii ñu nekk si yeneen dëkk yu ñu nekk c'est dafay neex nga koy dégg mais des fois tamit dafay saaj nga koy dégg parce que en 2023 waruñu nekk di casse droit yooyu mais condition yi ñu nekk fii nii da nga fiy nekk da ngay liggéey nit ki dañ lay jox sa àqu liggéey dañ lay jox sa gëdd buñ la gisee nga ne am na talent buñ la jéem a bring down man duma la gis bokk benn boîte ma gis la ne talent nga au lieu que ma xalaat ne waaw kii nii tam mu ñëw jël sama position foog ma fexe lu ma def pour gor tànkee mais non dama lay gis dama lay jéem a yëkkati pour après man su ma demee feneen yow nga mun ñëw mën fi toog pour influencer leneen donc ça veut dire que condition yi ñu nekk bu baaxee nit ñi dinañ thrive mais condition yi nekk bu baaxul duñ mës a am loo xamante ne bëgg nañ ko quoi.
non honestly gis naa ni dinaa ñëwaat ci wax jooju nag absolutely am sénégalais dañoo ñeme liggéey dañoo mën a góorgóorlu problème bi mooy dañoo nekk ci benn système boo xam ne même bu fekkee da ngay góorgóorlu di yeewu chaque jour di dem liggéeyi di daan sa doole système bi ni mu demee ak loo mënti def da ngay am ay jafe-jafe yoo xam ne pour nga denc xaalis sax problème lay nekk so boo gisee kenn koo xam ne moom mi ngi jéem a lijjanti lu muy ndekkee añee reere suba munoo ko ñëw di ko jéem a wax ci leneen loo xam ne amulu ko solo so premier dama bëggoon xam gisoon naa da nga bindoon lettre ci président Biden xam nga 2021 wala 2022 di ko wax ci situation Sénégal moom tamit administration bi ñu tontu la bindaat la beneen lettre dama bëggoon xam si lettre boobu yow loo fa bind and lan moo nekkoon intention bi moo xam ne moo tax nga bind lettre.
Mhm. Yeah, lettre bi mu ngi jóge si naxar ak rustange parce que comme ni ma ko waxee ñu ngi nekk fii à des milliers de kilomètres gis suñu dëkk am ñaar ñoo xamante ne am na situation bu xew ñaari nit ñu d'accord kii xëcc fii kii xëcc fële population bi am lu ñu gis population bi am loo xamante ne gis nañ ne ko jàpp nañ ne injustice la nga boole ci yeneen injustice yi ñu doon dund ci jamono jooju parce qu'il est important de rappeler que jamono jooju noonu ñu ngi nekkoon ci période Covid mais mën nañu wax ne gouvernement jamono jooju ni ñu doon accompagner wala restriction yi ñu doon teg ci population bi des fois da doon metti ci ñoom donc frustration boobu noonu yëpp accumulé ba ñu gis benn lu ñu jàppee injustice nit ñi génn naturellement pour wane que hey kontaanuñu mais dañu gis ne li xew foofu mooy que au lieu que ñi nga xamante ne ñoom dañ leen fal pour ñu teg nit ñi ci condition yu baax ñooñu ñoo ñëw ne leen hey du ngeen fi manifester du ngeen fi wax seen xalaat yamuñ ci foofu ñu téye leen di leen dóor te filmer leen ñuy tirer à bout portant ay xale yoo xamante ne amuñ sax 15 ans adduna bi ñëpp di ko gis léegi yow boo nekkoon Sénégal naturellement mën nga génn manifester boo nekkoon Sénégal mën nga génn def yenn démarche networking parce que lépp ci networking la nit ki le plus de relation ngay am ci àdduna bi dootoo sonn mais ma gisee loolu ma xam ne lii métti na trop ma xam ne instant bi mënumaa quitter dem Sénégal su ma fa demee tamit benn nit kese laa mën nañ ma tiire bal ma dee après dañuy fàtte
ku wax ñu tëj la.
yeah ku wax ñu tëj la ñooñu noonu ñoo xam te ne dañ leen rey après doo ci dégg enquête doo ci dégg dara en plus de ça ñi nga xamante ne ñoo war a gérer kaaraange parce que nit ki booy manifester police wala gendarmerie wala force de l'ordre seeni rôle mooy la mooy nañ ñëw accompagner nit ñi ñu manifester tôt ou tard dañuy ñibbi duñ fa nekk buñ fa nekkee 1 semaine 2 semaines tôt ou tard dañuy ñibbi dans nit ñi dañu bëgg a génne li nekk seen xol duñu dem di dóor président duñu dem di yàq di def dara mais nit ku mer nga ñëw ne ko doo manifester ci dëkkam mais forcément am na ay répression yoo xamante ne da ci am di nga gis kenn koo xamante ne dina jékki saa ne leen comme que nee ngeen du ma manifester damay jël xeer ma sànni mën nga ci gis ñoo xamante ne indi sax ay agresseur wala ay voyou wala ay ñoo xamante ne amuñu dara lu ñuy jotee ak manifestation ñoo ñëw di def ay tuuxi duna après nga bëgg ko imputer ci nit ñi donc bi ma gisee loolu mu metti ma trop ma toogaat xalaat what can I do c'est that's my favorite question what can I do lan laa mën a def loo xamante ne mën na ci jàpp ma xam ne malheureusement suñu système bu ñu dul wuyu suñu ñi nga xamante ne ñun ñoo leen jiite ñeneen ñi bu ñu waxee dinañ leen déglu ma ne comme que noonu la demee je suis à moins de 50 miles White House ba ma jël benn lettre ba bind ko tenter sama chance peut-être dina ko déglu peut-être du ko déglu mais big lettre bi vraiment dama rappeler les faits ne ko ginnaaw bi ñu la xam nga rek ni ñuy waxee civilité yi day rappeler que lii ak lii ak lii ak lii moo xew Sénégal mais instant bi ñu ngi dund loo xamante ne benn précédent la boo xamante ne monsieur le président non seulement mën na affecter ay vies sénégalaises mais aussi mën na affecter sous-région bi yëpp parce que boo seetloo Mali terrorisme mu ngi fay yokk Guinée jamono yooyu noonu amoon nañ 2 coups d'état boo demee Mauritanie ñoom tamit amoon nañ fa benn problème économique benn problème politique boo seetloo Sénégal kese moo doonoon dëkk boo xamante ne au moins amuñu woon coup d'état au moins institution yi ñoom fort nañ ils sont républicains ma ne ko gis nga lii Sénégal mooy sa seul allié bi nga xamante ne am nga ko ci Afrique de l'Ouest tey jii boo xoolee ba yenn règles yi nga xam ne ñoo gën a basique respecté wuñ ko biir Sénégal dina indi précédent parce que c'est comme ça que les coups d'état ont commencé c'est comme ça que les renversements et les révolutions ont commencé te bés bu xewee yéen waa États-Unis di ngeen ñàkk allié boo xamante ne après day indi mën na créer beneen Libye moo tax ma leen ma urge loo mënti def ko léegi parce que not only nit bu soucieux droit basique humain mooy wax ak yow not only nit boo xamante ne day jël taxam di ko fay pour yow ngay defar sa dëkk moom mooy taxaw di wax ak yow mais not only yow yaa taxaw nga woote nga ne Democratic Party nga bokk nga ne da ngay défendre la paix dans le monde foo ko mënti defee donc am na loo xamante ne mu ngi xew and it's against your belief and your values it's against our beliefs and our values the same way bi ma taxawee ne yow da nga waroon dañ la jàppale yow war nga mën a taxaw nga utiliser sa influence nga def ko donc en gros loolu laa waxoon ci lettre bi parce que du question de influence mais li ma wax dama ko gëm Sénégal bés bu amee instabilité politique li muy sa is gonna open the Pandora box is gonna open the door to hell dina ubbi buntu safara pour Afrique bi yëpp parce que stabilité bi ñuy indi ci sous région bi instant bi nii néew na dëkk yoo xamante ne mën nañ ko fa indi biñ ko defee je dis waaw 2 jours après je crois ci la ambassade États-Unis bu nekk Dakar génne benn communiqué ne nañu cesser le feu que dégg nga cesser le feu nañ cesser violence bi nañ bàyyi nit ñi ñu manifester et que secrétaire u Biden wax naa ak ambassadeur u Sénégal bi nekk Washington DC fii te bi ma koy def honestly like I said xaw ma woon sax ndax dina egg ci moom wala du egg ci moom dama ne naa try rek parce que tant que yaa ngi def dara rek il y a toujours de l'espoir et comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure nekk na loo xamante ne calmer na jeu bi tuuti mais en même temps dafa ruslu ba nga xam ne ñun dañoo war a dem di uti ndimbal ci beneen dëkk extérieur pour ñu gérer suñu dëkk et à chaque fois dañuy wax naan souveraineté loo xamante ne ñun waroon nañ ko mën gérer suñu biir te kenn du yëg et tellement basique nit moo bëggoon génn ne wax ne lii d'accorduma mais bàyyi ko mu wax ñun loolu rek lañ la laaj kenn renversé wul sa dëkk sa ba kenn ñëwul ne la da ngay génn dëkk bi kenn waxu la dara bàyyi nit ñi ñu kii mais c'est vraiment dommage que mënuñ ko gis donc moo tax ñu def loolu amaat na ñu defaat ko et bu amaatee tamit dinañ ko defaat fu ñu mën a xeex à chaque fois fu mu doon dem je pense l'année dernière aussi way 2022 demoon naa ci Union européenne ci seen conférence bu ñu defoon foofu tamit période boobu en même temps au Sénégal même problème moo amoon nit ñi ñoo doon génne ne manifester ñu leen di tëj ku génn wax ñu tëj la et cetera foofu tamit bi mu fa demee bi mu fa dajeeg dirigeants européens yi même chose laa leen wax da ngeen ne da ngeen di woote ne da ngeen di défendre la paix dans le monde bu dara xewee da ngeen di génn yéen a ngi ni Ukraine bi que Russie invadé da ngeen jël ay mesures ngeen dem def leen ko Sénégal parce que Sénégal rôle bi mu am ci Afrique de l'Ouest bu leen ko undermine and thankfully à chaque fois ça marche mais en même temps dafa ruslu tamit parce que day mel ni ñun souveraineté bi ñuy woote amuñ ko à chaque fois fu ñu wuti ndimbal feneen te buñ taxawee chaque fois dañ naan nit ñi waruñ dugg suñu biir wala anti français wala anti américain anti impérialisme et cetera bon c'est assez complexe mais je me dis que dund bakken loo ko mën a jënd pour sauver ko rek def ko quoi pour mu mat
loolu dëgg la te man tamit li may gis mooy Sénégal dafa nekk ci benn situation boo xam ne Sénégalais yi mën nañ wax ba sonn te kenn du leen faale mais bu keneen jóg Macron jóg Biden jóg Obama jóg wax administration bi foofu lañuy commencé di déglu nit ñi li ñuy wax ñuy arrêté liñ def même bu fekkee dafa amoon ay manifestation yu amoon ñuy rey nit ñi wala ak nu mu mënti demee violence bi am duñu déglu Sénégalais yi ba beneen dëkk wax ci wala beneen dëkk Afrique wax ci ñu soog a jóg ne ok bàyyi ñu arrêté li ñuy def mais bu nekkee Sénégal rek dafa mel ni faalatuñu Sénégalais yi dangay gis manifestation bu amee ñu coupé like wifi bi wala electricity bi social media down TikTok dem na pour nit ñi mën a wax lan mooy situation bi nekk Sénégal comprendre naa fi ñuy waxee naan nit ñi dañuy nekk ci internet bi di wax nit ñi pour ñu def lu bon ay act of terrorisme mais lan mooy sa xalaat ci manifestation buy waaj a am dafa mel ni gouvernement bi dañuy def lu ñu mën a def pour minimiser expérience su Sénégalais yi ba pare wàññi seen voix to this like they lose their voice because duñu mën a wax social media duñu mën a wax ci télé yi ku nekkee ragal a wax ndax dañuy yaakaar ne bu ma waxee ñu tëj ma lan nga yaakaar mooy problème bi foofu ak how it turns violent in the end when they don't have an outlet sa xalaat
it's like too much control bëgg a contrôler lépp te loolu mënul nekk fi ñu toll surtout Sénégal li mu tàmm parce que Sénégal c'est pas la première fois Sénégal di am problème politique mais liñ daan seetlu mooy que à chaque fois même bu fekkee manifestation dina am benn blessé wala lu wëree bëri benn mort wala 3 morts au moins nit ñi dinañ génn manifester. Je prends l'exemple de Abdoulaye Wade à chaque fois même bi mu bëggoon forcer troisième mandat gars yi bi ñu bëggee génn manifester da leen bàyyi la ñu dem manifester parce que li nit ki danaan nii laa gisee kenn nee laa gisee après ñu confronte parce que dans tous les cas jàmm dina dellu si mais bii paa dañu dem ba 16 morts ci en l'espace d'une semaine comme ni nga ko waxee da ngay am impression que Corée du Nord nga nekk pardon de citer ce pays mais da ngay am impression que Corée du Nord nga nekk parce que amatoo accès internet mënatoo publier ci réseaux sociaux yi ñun ñi nekk fii déjà dañuy stressé parce que xamuñu suñu famille ci lu ñu nekk et mu am benn excès de force de benn excès de zèle bu jugee ci force de l'ordre boo xamante ne ça n'a jamais été vu da ngay gis ay vidéos yoo xamante ne da ngay toog sa kër gis benn jeune toog këram police ñëw fëgg buntu bi ubbi jël la sans mandat sans rien te loolu yëpp li ko andi mooy pouvoir bu bëri bi nga xamante ne dañ ko jox président il faut le dire suñu régime présidentiel bi amul njëriñ dafa is outdated benn nit kese mënul contrôler lépp nga ne séparation des pouvoirs nga ne le pouvoir exécutif président pouvoir législatif député yi pouvoir judiciaire juge yi mais yow mi nekk pouvoir exécutif loo wax assemblée damay seetaan yàlla xam na ne damay seetaan suñu débat parlementaire yi mais comme ay robot
moom laa doon waaj a laaj nooy seetaan di débat because dafa mel ni cinéma lay seetaan
comme xawaar président déjà ministre bu ñëwee di def déclaration de politique générale dina wax lépp ba mu des seen plan de politique waaw ñoo fi def lii ñoo fi def lii yeneen député yi bu ñu ñëwee au lieu que ñu xool analyser li ministre bi wax premier ministre bi wax wala ministre bi ne lii d'accord ma ci lee d'accord ma ci mais xam nga lan ngay dégg waaw yow de sa maam dafa baax yow de yaa def lu baax ci dëkk bi yow ku baax nga tagg nit ki da ngay seetaan loolu da ngay rus. Des fois damay toog ma ne chaque fois ndeysaan dama naan peut-être cette fois-ci dinaa fi dégg loo xamante ne mën nañ ci waxtaan politique wise mën nañ ci waxtaan economy wise mën nañ ci waxtaan education wise mais c'est toujours la même chose et même au niveau des opposants da ngay gis c'est rare des fois nag di nga gis nit ñoo xamante ne am na benn éveil boo xamante ne muy commencé am ci génération politicien yu bees yi yaa ngi gis ñu ngi commencé di bind ay livres di wax ci économie bi yaa ngi gis ñuy commencé di xëcc nit ñi pour ñu débat ci li nga xamante ne projet de société la mais ñun politique Sénégal ni mu demee mooy ki daax a xas sa morom te noonu la demee et c'est absolument désolant donc pour revenir à li nga waxoon manifester c'est un droit basique c'est basique foog ñu may ko nit ñi ñu koy wax nit ki génn manifester ça veut pas dire que sa nguur danga koy ñàkk nit ki bu génnee manifester c'est-à-dire que Sénégal ngay gis dëkk boo xamante ne man je me dis en tant que président su ma nekkoon président nit ma dajeeg benn sénégalais mu ne ma hey man kontaanu man maa war a tiit mais moom warul tiit mais Sénégal ngay dajeeg président wala nga dajeeg policier wala nga dajeeg keneen ki nga xam ne moo la war a protéger da ngay dajeeg moom nga tiit. ragal a wax parce que boo waxee dinañ la tëj buñ la tëjee say famille duñu xam foo nekk sa famille buñ xamul foo nekk condition yi nga xamante ne moom lañ tëjee da nga fay génnee fi ay feebar génnee fi ay gaañu yoo xamante ne après du am benn enquête et loolu c'est dû au fait que ki nga xamante ne moom la ñu wax président su ko neexee mu dëgg bal tànkam ci dossier yi et mu dem ba am audace su taxaw c'était il y a 4 ans sur une télé de la place ne man y a des dossiers yoo xamante ne dafa war a egg cour suprême mais gis naa ne su ma bàyyee dossiers yi mu dem day mën na tas dëkk bi donc dama siy teg sama coude.
loolu du justice.
naka lay doone justice naka la équitable ki nga xamante ne dafay sàcc nen bu sàccee nen dañ koy juge duñ ko juger sax dañ koy tëj def ko en instruction buñ ko defee en instruction mën na toog 5 ans foofu noonu tant que juge wuñ ko duñ ko bàyyi 5 ans mën na ko toog juste pour xaar benn juge ko mais ki nga xamante ne il est plein aux as yàgg na ci système bi sàcc na ay milliards mais juste parce que am na benn taay ci benn famille wala feneen ak feneen nga ne non lii bu génnee mën na tas dëkk bi donc dama siy coc sama tànk mais fan la ñu jëm te li ci saat mooy que président bi am na possibilité def loolu parce que loi bi moo ko may donc ñun lu ñuy xaar ñu ngi koy ñaan balaa ñun suñu génération di ñëw di jël reenu dëkk bi mu am benn politicien xamante ne lim ñu yombaloon ngir laay war a suuli ñun suñu génération mooy ku am courage ñëw wàññi pouvoir yi nga xamante ne président bi am na ko nga am courage politique jël pouvoir bi tas ko entre les parlementaires et les justiciables yow ni ngay holdee accountable sa dëkk ni ngay holdee accountable say ministre sa dëkk bi mën la holdee accountable noonu mais tant que defuñ ko on aura toujours les mêmes problèmes et malheureusement ce sera toujours population yi nga xamante ne dañoo gëm politiciens yooyu ñoom ñoo ci ñàkk seen bakkan ñoo ci ñàkk seen i doom ñoo ci ñàkk seen i frère ñoo ci ñàkk seen i sœur mais politiciens yi nga xamante ne ñoo fi nekk yore game bi dañuy passante pouvoir bi rek tey maay jël suba dans 5 ans nga jël dans keneen nga jël te ñoom seen doom kenn du si ñàkk et c'est vraiment malheureux il faut que ñu commencer di pousse waxtaan boobu noonu il faut que ñu commencer di pousse waxtaan ci réforme yooyu noonu tant que defuñ ko changement du am parce que mën nga nekk te foofu laa jeexalee mën nga nekk nit ku gën a am intention yi gën a baax ci àdduna bi mais pouvoir dafa graaw psychologiquement li muy def si nit dafa graaw bés boo toog si pouvoir jëloo matuwaay yi nga xamante ne yow yaa établir say safeguard pour yow bés booy cross the line doo ko tey sax te bés boo ko defee mu yomb rek da nga naan kon bés bu mettiwee rek damay jël la force ma def ko et c'est quelque chose boo xamante ne dañ ko war a avoid sinon rek si ay problème rek la ñuy dëkk te xamoo ban jour la ñuy cross line boo xamante ne ñaanuma ko yàlla mais mën nañ dugg foo xamante ne ëllëg dina doon lu wéy bu ñaaw ci suñu histoire.
non li nga wax dëgg la te man tamit dama bëgg a laaj beneen question ndax si man like the outsider looking in su may xool justice su Sénégal wala politique beeg président yi it's like a repeating cycle da ngay gis kenn ñëw ñu ne bëggatuñ la kii lañ bëgg teg ko tey kooku ñëw def lu la metti nga ne bëggatuñ la nañ teg kii tey kooku ñëw def lu la metti ñu ne léegi nañ ko changer teg kii dafa mel ni système bi duñu bàyyi nit ñëw ne do a presidential campaign ñu xam 100% ñu déglu ñëpp 100% ok lii mooy sa intention li nga bëgg a def Sénégal ba xam am na xel ba xam yaa ngi xalaat secteur yëpp and waxuma Sonko ndax I think Sonko is a good candidate mais dama yaakaar booy wax ci Sonko yenn saay Sénégalais yi tur bi la ñuy dégg rek te duñu déglu li ngay wax mais man fi may waxee mooy bu nekkee personne B koo bëgg mu nekk président 2024 boo ko bàyyiwul mu fully wax li mu bëgg def Sénégal dafay répété gis nga Ablaye Wade bu nekkee ñu ne Ablaye Wade dafa bëgg def 3e mandat deful lu ñu bëgg Sénégal na dem Macky lañ bëgg tey Macky ñëw ne moom mu ne waaw président warul def 3e mandat def fa lu mu fay def ñëwaat Sénégalais yi di def manifestation ndax dañoo dem ba yaakaar Macky daa noppi ndax dafay def 3e mandat waxu ci mu dem ba bàyyi manifestation yi ba mu nekk violent fatal dafa mel ni is repeating léegi ñu ñëw ñu ne bëggatuñ la yow Sonko lañ bëgg right ñu bëgg ko Sonko ak ku mu mënti nekk person A person B Sonko a good candidate mais yow lan nga yaakaar mooy système boo xam ne moo war a bokk ci politique du Sénégal ba nga xam ne même bu fekkee président dafa ñëw ak bu fekkee dafa amoon intention bu baax bu demee ba benn moment boo xam ne defatul li mu waroon def mën nga have like a accountability pour président bi ba du yaakaar ni man maa yore pouvoir yëpp te yéen mënuloo ko dara lan nga yaakaar mooy système bi ñu war a def in place am na on paper mais in the practice lay wax
mooy que ñun ñu bàyyi désillusion bi bàyyi yaakaar ne benn nit kese moom mën a développer suñu dëkk so na ko ci benn moom la ñu jël un exemple parce que moom mooy ki gën a prolifique ci opposition bi actuellement wax na ko ci livre am mu ne développement damay paraphraser fii mu ne développement du jóge ci benn nit kese wala du jóge ci ku ngeen yaakaar ne moom la ñu wooye Messi wala benn yonent mais masse critique maanaam bu ñu nee masse critique ci laa bokk ci nga bokk keneen ak keneen ak keneen ci lañ bokk ñoom ñooy soulever ndoo amandoo benn vision amandoo benn envie pour mën a développer benn dëkk il faut que ñu bàyyi li nga wax c'est très très important parce que Sénégal lu ci ëpp dañuy folli duñu fal maintenant tout sauf Abdou Diouf nañu andi Ablaye Wade ñëw lii neex nañu tout sauf Ablaye Wade na Macky Sall ñëw lii neex nañu tout sauf Macky Sall bu Sonko ñëwee aussi il va être day dajeek les mêmes problèmes dinañ fi toog benn instant fal nañ Sonko 1 mois dëkk bi doxul pourquoi dëkk bi doxul parce que Sonko moom moo def lii moom moo def lii yow mi en tant que sénégalais lan nga def yow pour développer sa dëkk en tant que sénégalais ban liggéey nga indi en tant que sénégalais ban revenu nga indi nga participer ci say impôt bu fekkee participer wala chef d'entreprise nga en tant que sénégalais nan yan yan stratégie nga teg pour développer sa dëkk pour andiwaale gën a sakin more jobs du
Yeah,
Sonko moo lay defal loolu du Mademba moo lay defal loolu du Masamba moo lay defal loolu noonu mais tant que ñu ngi jël suñu sooxee tant que ñu ngi jël suñuy espoir tant que ñu ngi jël suñu bëgg-bëgg di ko teg ci benn nit kese on aura toujours des problèmes donc bu
yeah,
réforme boobu ñun tamit il faut que ñu toog regarder suñu bopp devant miroir bi xam ne suñu dëkk ñun ñoo ko war a développer suñu dëkk système boobu noonu côté société bi foog mu changer buñ ko changer dinañ mën a hold accountable the president parce que dinañ fi toog déjà man moo tax sànq ma ne la li may gis génération politicien yu bees yi nii daf ma neex parce que tu prends des Sonko des Thionia nit ñi ñoo jël seen xaalis di ko cotiser pour moom mu dem campagne
absolutely.
ne benn waaye mooy ñëw kenn xamul fan la jëlee xaalisam yore ay milliards financé campagne am après bu nekkee président danaan kenn defalu moo ko man maa si def sama xaalis maay appointé ku ma neex ministre man maay def lu ma neex tu vois mais
No?
tey le fait que nga jël benn sa communauté wala say militant ñoom ñoo jël dajale seen xaalis jox la ko ëllëg boo toogee bëgg a def lu naqari dañ naan la hey ñun ñoo la fi teg bu boobaa ñun ñoo la fi teg bi yamul kese si man maa la votel mais non man maa la financé pour fi nga toog yow nga toog fa amal courage nga def réforme yi nga xamante ne moom lañ soxla ñun ñu gunge la lenn lañ soxla si yow mooy nga teg ñu ci condition yi nga xamante ne dina tax ñun ñu mën a thrive bu marché
Yeah,
amee bi jox ko ay sénégalais en premier suñu ressources yi même buñ koy exporter nañ ci am la plupart du marché mais bu mu doon loo xamante ne ñun ñoo ñëw duñu imposer ñun foofu lañ la soxla demal taxaw ci kanam fi ñu mënti nekk fu yeneen dëkk yi di daje taxawal foofu nga défendre ñu fi ñun tamit ñun tamit wax dëgg yàlla ñu jug liggéey suñu dëkk il faut que ñu affronter vérité boobu noonu mënuñu jëw juste parce que fal nañ Ousmane Sonko wala Mademba Masamba que le lendemain que ñun dañuy toog suñu kër liggéey bi fekk suñu loolu mënul nekk wax naa ko sànq bu la benn politicien yi ñëwee ne la boo leen ma falee dëkk bi ma defar leen dëkk bi daw leen kooku parce que amul benn dëkk boo mën a wax ne benn personne moo ñëw développé dëkk danaa ma benn nit ñëw na ba indi leadership ba fexe ba corruption jóge fi ba propulser ay champions nationaux loolu boo ko defee loolu mooy développé dëkk mais pas benn
yeah,
nit kese moo ñëw développé lépp.
yeah. And um, li nga wax dëgg la absolutely. Bi ngay wax, it remind me of a situation, and I want to know your thoughts. Pour man, li ma gis mooy li ci ëpp Sénégalais yi foog ñu changer suñu mentalité tuuti because uh, bi nga doon wax, it made me think of two people. It made me think of Akon and John Young because John Young dafa génne ne we not me, right?
Yeah.
Nit ñi dañ ko internalize ñu yaakaar ci campaign na moom li muy wax boo leen ma votel ma may la xaalis te loolu man dégguma ko ci campaign bi ñu dem ba mu ne leen déedéet bu dee loolu ngeen yaakaar man dama ciy génn ndax xalaatuma di fay nit ñi pour ñu votel ma booy demee ci comment yi nga gis amul xaalis amunul def lii munul def laa te moom mi ngi establish na boppam ba pare right like moom bu ko neexee mën na toog Amérique wala dem fenn dem fee def lu mu bëgg def lijjanti business am yoonam du nekk ci Sénégal you know um, ma gis ni mentalité wu sénégalais bi dafa du ñëpp nag mais ci li ma gis ci comment yi is like yéen da ngeen di nit bu bëggoon ñëw sax defaat ci Sénégal da koy ragal a def ndax li ngeen koy wax di ko discourage also ma xalaat Akon ci Akon City dama ci def vidéo pour wax you know yéen li ngeen def Akon baaxul ndax dafa am intention yu baax pour développer Sénégal mais of course dafa mel ni dafa am ay problème ci diggante bi ba develop ko and I'm open to opposing view disagree agree mais dama lay wax sama xalaat rek Sénégal yi dem gis ne Akon City tabaxul lu bari I think mënoon a gën a tabax mais tamit tabax xaalis la tabax nekkul rek xaalis there's so many other things that's included in it Sénégalais yi mer ci vidéo boobu ne man xawma comprendre ma ndax dafa am dëkk bi ay at defu ci dara te daf ci waroon a def whatever ma ne leen yéen comprendre leen nit buy liggéey xaalisam ba pare di ko jéem a dugal pour tabax city boo xam ne gouvernement bi ñoo ko war a tabax moom mu bëgg ñëw def xaalisam di jéem a def loo xam ne gouvernement moo ko war a def yéen ngeen naan ko da ngeen ko war a def ci 5 ans da nga ko war a def ci 3 ans yéen musoo leen tabax city how you gonna tell somebody it only take 5 years to do it dafa mel ni seen mentalité bi mooy boo xasee ba am tuuti xaalis loo war a def danga ko war a def fët and that's not how it is noonu la nit ñi di leen ndax dañuy ñëw ne ginnaaw suba damay ñëw def nii ak lii Sénégal they sell you a dream nga ne waaw ñoo nekk suñu président wala ñoo ñu dugal la ci gouvernement bu ginnaaw suba ñu génn ci mel ni du woon ñoom so dama bëgg a xam ci sa xalaat ci ñaari topic yooyu dama doon wax ne ñun dañoo war a développer Sénégal dañ ci war a daan suñu doole as citizens lan mooy sa xalaat ci Akon trying to develop Akon City ak fi mu mujj tey.
moo ko gisee ay ree la may def ci Sénégalais yi parce que benn bi ñàkk xam la parce que ku wax ne ay Chonya ay Kans bëgguñu def Sénégal wala yor nañ xaalis mais bëgguñ ko def Sénégal da nga am yenn fait de l'histoire nga danga ko bàyyi ñooñu fi ñu njëkk a commencé mooy Akon Lighting City chaque fois damay dégg ñu naan oh def nañ light Mali def nañ light Afrique mais lu tax defuñ ko Sénégal mais parce que dañu bëggoon ñëw def Sénégal ki leen ko war a autoriser ne leen du ngeen ko fi def parce que dañ foog na politique lañ doon def loolu
na wax ji leer
hard like ñun nu ñu daanee suñuy champion xamuñu nu ñuy yëkkati may champion dañuy gis kenn koo xamante ne mu ngi def man dama koy wax à chaque fois man leen gis ngeen nu ñuy jàngalee nii boo jëloon benn Chonya benn Maes benn Babacar Diop benn Akon nga dugal leen ci benn salle ak des jeunes pendant 2 heures de temps li ñu mën a jàng foofu noonu is équivalent to li ñu mën a jàng pendant 2 ans 3 ans ci seen école parce que c'est des gens yoo xamante ne yéen a bokk génération problème yi nga nar a face bés boo duggee ci monde économique monde du travail moom ñoom face nañ ko ba pare te raccourci la shortcut la mën nañ la wan nii nga koy avoider wala fii ngay jaar ak fee ngay jaar impact bi ñu am ci dëkk bi am nañ ay champion yoo xamante ne lu ñu mën a jàng ci ñoom may dafa bëri tellement mais malheureusement chaque fois bu ñu bëggee thrive dañ leen di down ci suuf tey ji am na maa ngi benn anecdote maa ngi duggoon ci benn discussion am clubhouse ñu doon wax ci Akon am na benn podcast bu mu defoon bu muy wax mu ne like congolais yi boo demee Congo dama doon ree sax mu ne boo demee Congo gars yi dañuy fight loxo ak loxo ak ay tàngin quoi genre góor yi daf may ree gars non kii moom waxul dëgg et cetera man leen man ànd naa ci ñu ne mu tax man leen li américain yi di def moom lay def pour Afrique rek man leen day xool leen tey ji dañ laan Amérique tey ji bu ma laaj leen man leen guerre Vietnam kan moo ko gagné ñu ne ma Amérique man leen wax vous avez complètement faux guerre Vietnam Amérique moo ko gagné Amérique a perdu tellement de guerre mais de par leur film ak seen art ak ni ñuy véhiculer information da ngay foog ne que ñoom guerre bu ñu songo rek gagné nañ ko the same way ni nga xamante ne noonu la ñuy jaay suñu dëkk noonu la Akon di jaayee peut-être il a def na benn zèle mais je comprends l'idée derrière parce que dafa bëgg africain ni ñeneen ñi amee place ci monde bi ak ci table bi ñoom tam ñu amee ci place mais bu fekkee ñun ñi nga xamante ne ñoom la ñuy defaral projet yooyu noonu bu ñëwee bëgg leen dicter niñ koy defaree problème day am parce que da ngay gis kenn ñëw ne la non Akon amul xaalis bu mu war a mën a defaree site bi mais gis nga Microsoft lately in the past 2 weeks ñoom ñoo dem dépasser Apple ci most valuable company ñoom instant bi dépassé nañ Apple ci
really
company bi nga xamante ne moo gën a valuable Apple forever since 2014 ñoom ñoo fa nekkoon ak plus de $3 trillion mais Microsoft dépassé mais buñ leen Microsoft sax bu ma la nee Microsoft sa turu kan mooy njëkk a ñëw sa xel Bill Gates mais xamuñ ne Bill Gates instant bi nii li mu own ci ay share ay actions ci Microsoft is less than 10% te pourtant business bi moom la buñ la waxee Microsoft Bill Gates nga koy njëkk a xalaat ça veut dire que amul benn business buy fleurir boo xamante ne benn nit dafa jël alalam yëpp def ko ci amul fenn Akon bu ñëwee day ñëw tabax benn city Sénégal du Akon moom mooy jël xaalis personnel am ñëw def ko ci non day dem trouver des investisseurs et loolu noonu c'est des paramètres yoo xamante ne yow mënoo ko contrôler fonds
Mm.
yi available matériel yi nga xam ne moom lañ war a tabaxee cité bi naka la leen gouvernement bi yombalee loolu noonu te loolu mënoo ko def en 5 ans moo tax chaque fois Sénégal tamit des fois dañuy dugg ci débat yoo xamante ne c'est puéril parce que da ngay dugg ci benn débat ak benn émotion mais amoo fait yi nga xamante ne moom ngay ñëwee argument lenn moo la ci neex mooy que leelam bi neexuma wala que kii daf ma soof juste parce que neex na ma da ngay juger en tant que kii neex na ma wala neexuma mais doo ko teg ci ay fact mën nga bañ a
Yeah,
d'accord man mais bu ñëwee di indi dara loo xamante ne gis nga ne mën na doxal sa dëkk jël leen ko ngeen jàppale ko même bu fekkee d'accord leen parce que
yeah,
mënoo d'accord nit ki ci lépp jël ko nga jàppale ko ñu jël suñuy champion ñu booster leen mais bu fekkee ñun population bi ñu ñoo leen di njëkk a downgrade kon bu boobaa duñ mës a am ay champion parce que yow mii nga xam ne yaa leen di downgrade bés dina ñëw di nga nekk ci même position bi di nga bëgg a defar dara gars yi ne la non da ngay sóob rek wala waxoo fi lii wala defoo fi lii wala nii nga ko war a defee te
yeah,
honnêtement moom moo am projet wam bu ñëwee ba cherche nit ñi ak problème yi nañ seet nuñ ko mën a jàppale buñ ko mënul jàppale nañ ci génn mais buñ nekk di jéem a downgrade loolu foog ñu bàyyi ko benn psychologie bu nekk si ñun la daf ñu topp depuis époque colonialisme noonu lañ ñu nootee dañuy dem ci Lat Joor ne ko Maba Jaxu Ba nee na sa leel bi da ngay xeeñ wala sa fi jëbi dafa takk suuf ñu doon fight loolu la ñuy wax diviser pour mieux régner noonu lañ doon def ba fight et dama jaakaar ne loolu psychologiquement dafa dem ba topp ñu man su ma la gisee au lieu que ñu booloo li may njëkk a xalaat mooy naka laay fees ba daaneel la alors que suñu booloo moom moo war a doon li nga xamante ne moo ñuy gën a yëkkati mais malheureusement mentalité boobu noonu nekkagu fi te ñun foog ñuy xam loolu te xam nu ñuy interpréter information parce que toute information n'est pas la bonne information foog ñuy xool li nga xamante ne mooy réalité bi te amuñu expérience ci tabax city donc du ma ñëw naan ay kon nii nga war a tabaxee wala nee nga war a tabaxee vraiment.
exactly. Okay. Thank you. That was really insightful. So balaa ñuy tëj sama xalaat dama bëgg rek nga expliquer nit ñi Alfie bu fekkee daa am kenn koo xam ne dafa bëgg join dafa bëgg nekk entrepreneur wala def ay yenn initiatives. What is Alfie? Lan mooy Alfie and how can they join? So,
Yeah, gladly. ALFI mu ngi benn acronyme bu pour bi stand pour African Leaders Factory Initiative benn association benn organisation la boo xamante ne li ko tax a jóg mooy dooleel jeunes yi mooy di gën a suux jeunes yi ñu xam lan mooy leadership transformationnel pour ñoom ñu mën a nekk aware ci seen capacité seen skills identifier seen skills d'abord xool nuñ koy développer ba après ñoom ñu dellu ci seen souche société pour influencer ñeneen nit ñooñu influencer ñeneen nit et cetera donc dañuy travailler étroitement ak ONU ci li nga xamante ne moom la ñuy woowee les objectifs de développement durable fii ak 2030 donc bëri na plus de 15 la mais ñun yiñ ci tàmm mooy éducation entrepreneurship ak les énergies renouvelables te loolu nuñ koy defee mooy chaque année pour entrepreneuriat bi chaque année dañuy ñëw ñu boole ay jeunes des jeunes du monde entier depuis 2020 lañ ko commencé des jeunes du monde entier ñu boole leen ak ay coach yoo xamante ne dañ leen di jàngal soit boo ubbee sa entreprise wala sa startup nooy def ba atteindre yeneen marché yi bu fekkee am nga idée bi mais xamoo nooy commencé ñu wax la ni ngay commencé même bu fekkee amoo idée xamoo nooy def mais tu es juste intéressé ñu wax la nan ngay développer wala naka ngay organiser say idée ba indi benn corps boo xamante ne après di nga ko mën jël pour transformer ko benn projet donc de par là ñu def benn networking comme ça ñoom ñu nekk ci benn fellowship partenariat di gën a soox beneen bi mooy que dañuy jël ay panneaux solaires di ko jënd di ko fournir ak ay maisons parce que am na remote area yoo xamante ne ba léegi amaguñ accès à l'électricité te loolu day impacter lu bëri ci seen jàngu doom day impacter lu bëri ci seen accès à l'information day impacter lu bëri si ñoom donc suñu objectif mooy fii ak 2030 ñu mën a éclairer plus de 10 000 maisons incha allah ñu ngi xalaat tamit parce que ni muy demee nii baax na ñu ngi xalaat exporter ko ci pays sous région yi donc appel la pour ñun ñu booloo en tant que jeune ñu booloo xam suñu valeur xam suñu doole xam suñu skills ba pare sottante xalaat ñun ñëpp parce que nu ñuy wax rek booloo parce que tant que yaa ngi am networking tant que yaa ngi xamante nit ñi li nga xamante mën nga ci jur mënoo xam sax fu mu toll donc instant bi nii sax ubbi nañ en porte yi pour ku bëgg a ñëw ku am expérience ku amul expérience dinañ la match ak benn mentor mën nga dem ci site web bi ñuy wax alfi.org mën nga déposer sa candidature foofu noonu mën nga ñoo joindre aussi ci Instagram ñu ngi foofu noonu alfi même chose Twitter ñu ngi foofu noonu Facebook am te benn communauté boo xamante ne la on est très réactif boo amee question mooy de 24 heures dinañ la tontu incha allah mais képp koo xamante ne jeune nga soucieux nga pour développer yow sa bopp am sa professional development ci bépp domaine boo mënti nekk boo ñu joindre incha allah ñun ñëpp dinañ joindre les forces incha allah pour suuxal suñu communauté yi nga xamante ne moom lañ nekkal en contact.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. So now we're going to get into financial literacy. And I see that you're very passionate about the topic and you do a lot of education on investing and how to manage your money, but what to invest in. So I want to know, everyone has their own meaning of like financial freedom, right? What does that mean to you? What does that look like to you?
Um, in simple words, knowing where your money comes from, knowing how it works, and knowing where it's going, and actually learning where to place it so it generates more income. Because
Mm,
the problem we have is like we get the money, but we never really ask ourselves where it's coming from, who creates the money. I'm just getting my money, but I'm spending it. But you see other people claiming that they're financially independent, and you always say, "Oh, it's just fate. They're bound to be bound to just stay live paycheck to paycheck, but it's not like that because they were where you were before. So you just gotta do the math and get to the information. And it's really important looking at our financial system. I mean,
mm,
it's showing its limits. Because if I have to give you a plain example, like if you take just a candy, I'm just gonna give you an example, like a candy. When we were 5 years old, 7 years old, when you go to Senegal, they would cost what, like 15 francs CFA. And then you go to 10 years old, it goes up to 25 francs CFA. Now it's costing 50 francs CFA and all the way to 100. If you take a look at the size and the ingredients and everything, the shape of that candy or that
mm.
lollipop, it hasn't changed that much. But the value of that candy or that lollipop keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. This thing hasn't gone up or down. It's just the value has kept increasing and increasing. What does it teaches us? It shows us that our money loses value as we are going. You
Oh,
leave $10,000 in your bank account right now. We're in 2023. In 10 years or 2033, you come back. What you can buy with the $10,000 right now, you will
mhm.
not be able to buy it in 2030. And it was the same case. What you could have bought with $10,000 in the year 2000 is definitely not what you can buy with right now. Like before
No,
parents, what they confuse and tell us is like, "Oh, I got my house at this amount of price. You should be getting your house and on all of that." But right now, they used to get their houses for like $75,000. Now, if you don't have like a good 700K, you're not really gonna get a decent house. And it's just showing
yeah,
that our money loses value all the time, and it's not so much because of us or we're doing something wrong, but it's just the way our monetary system is working. It's called the fiat money. So
it's called the what?
the fiat, we call it fiat. Whenever you hear about fiat, is just like money paper versus cryptocurrencies, for example, or any other commodities versus gold versus diamonds and all of that. So that money, the most dangerous thing you can do with that is actually leave it at the bank, because one, not only you're going to lose value on that money, but in the other hand, the bank don't think that they're gonna just leave that money be there sleeping for, and ready for you to take it whenever you want it. They're gonna take it, lend it to someone else, or put it in investing it somewhere else. They're gonna get, for example, out of $10,000, they can get a 50% revenue out of it. They will win $5,000. They will give you back some money, but it's just gonna be 0.03%. So out of those $5,000, what you're getting is less than $5. Is that
And
fair?
you
That's
probably tripled it.
absolute. That's not fair. As
Yeah,
opposed to you taking it and putting it somewhere else where not only the money is not going to lose its value, but it's going to go up. That's what we call commodities. Whether you put in real estate, whether you buy gold and you exchange the value of the money with the value of gold. So the more you go, for example, for gold because it's scarce, the value is going to go up. So when you sell the gold again, you're going to get more than what you invested. So literally, that's the basic. Your money has to generate money for you to be able to hit that financial freedom, but you have to know where your money comes from, where it's going, and how to make sure that you're getting enough income so you don't have to worry about always having the ends to meet and live to from paycheck to paycheck. So there are
yeah,
some new ways of investing, which is the cryptocurrency. We're going to talk about it later. That
yeah,
is the opposite of losing its value, but definitely it's just the way our monetary system is set up, and it's been set up for like centuries, and now it's reaching its limit because everything has changed. The way we learn has changed. The way we communicate has changed. The way we get the information has changed. The way we travel has changed. The way we teach has changed. So it's only normal that the relationship we have with our money and our finances, it has to be updated as well.
yeah. Okay. So for viewers watching, I'm taking this as a learning opportunity. I'm going to learn as much as I can from PDK as we are talking. So I hope you all are doing the same as well. And so there's so many different components to financial literacy, right? There's the investing, there's the budgeting, but I really want to talk about the financial management. And you kind of spoke on it with like the fact that our money loses value over the years.
Mm,
How do you think, when you're thinking of middle class America or anyone who's in like the middle economy all over the world,
mm.
the challenges of maintaining your lifestyle, paying your bills, what do you think would be the most ideal way of managing their money? Like, how much should they be investing? How much should they be saving? How much of your income should you make sure you're actually saving versus spending? Like, what are your thoughts on financial management and what's maybe a method that has worked for you?
There are several. I would say it depends on how much your income is. But there is one rule that always say you got to save some money, you got to invest some money. You cannot be just, even if you're only getting $500, you cannot just take all this $500, spend them, go buy some shoes that are going to lose their values, or just go buy some, or go outside, eat an expensive dinner at 150 and come back and expect your life to get better. Like, really, we got to face reality. So there are some ways, some percentages that you can get. The most median one would be to invest your 15% of your income into funds, ETFs, or anything that can really make your money comes back. Um, and 35% of that you have to save it because you never know, a life event can happen and you might need to some funds. So in order for you not to touch what you just invested, you have to have some money saved up, and then the rest you just try to live with it. And keep in mind that what you're investing is not something that is going to stay forever, because you're trying to invest in the long term future. You want from 10 years from now to be able to not even look at your paycheck and leave from what your investment are giving. So if you start, let's say right now you are saving 35% of your income, um, investing at least 15% of your income. It can be tough, like really, times are hard. I understand that, but just keep in mind that it's not going to be forever. There's going to come one time your investment are going to pay off, and you just gotta keep that thing in you and be disciplined. That's the key. So right now I would say that's the most. There are some people that do 20, 30, and then the rest, the 50% base goes towards your bills and just you living. But I would say it just really depends on how much you're willing to give, because the more you give, the more you're gonna get later. So I don't want to get into the technical details, but that 15% you can invest it. Like I said, go buy some gold. Gold never loses its value because it's always about the offer and the demand. Because if I show you this, that's a pen, right?
Yeah.
And this, if you have probably like a million of these in around the world, and if I were to sell you this for 10, if I said I was going to sell you for $10, you're probably going to laugh at my face, you see. But if I show you this is a deck of cards, and imagine I told you the manufacturer only made this limited edition, and there's only seven of these around the world. So immediately the value of these is going to go up. So the scarce, when something is scarce, it's going to generate more value, but the more you have something around, the value is going to go less. So that's really how you kind of sort out where your money can go. Like gold, we all know is scarce. It's a good asset. It has been around for centuries and centuries. So when you put your money there, you are at least knowing that your money is not going to lose value. Talk about diamonds. There are some other commodities like Bitcoin, for example, which is the opposite of how the monetary system right now works, because that scarcity, when we're talking about Bitcoin, when Satoshi Nakamoto made it, or them, because we don't know if that's a person or a group of people, they,
Really?
yeah, definitely, no one knows who he is. He just gave us a white paper, and that changed the world forever.
I need
But
that level of money, so nobody knows
yeah,
who I am.
uh-huh. And to show you how he made that, is like he only made sure that you can only have 21 million of units of Bitcoin around the world. You cannot go past that or beyond that. So that
Mm.
caps it at 20 million. Right now, we haven't made, or we haven't generated 21 million units of Bitcoin, but it stops there. And that alone makes it scarce. So Bitcoin, for example, the more you go, the more the value is going to go up as compared to fiat money. And that's
Oh,
where Bitcoin come in, trying to kind of bring a revolution, trying to make sure that when you put your money somewhere, you rest assured that even if you don't benefit from it, the other generation coming from you are after you are gonna benefit from it. So that's how you really look at it. We talk about stocks market as well. That's what we call the ETFs and all of that. It's just like you want to buy some stocks, but you don't know if you should invest in Apple or in Microsoft or in other companies. You don't have that level of, yeah. So if you are beginners to it, you can invest your money into some ETF. It's like you put $1,000 in there, and they're gonna make sure that they buy a chunk of stocks in every the the five, let's say S&P 500, for example, the first 500 companies that are performing the best around the world. They're gonna make sure that they buy a chunk um, of stocks in each one of those companies, and those that $1,000 is gonna spread out around those companies. So not only is helping you keep your money growing, but it's secure as well, because you want to make sure that if you invest $1,000 in an ETF, let's say if one day Apple versus, let's say, let me take an example. I just want to make it, the teacher spirit comes in. I want to make it basic. Let's say I come and I have $1,000, you have $1,000. I come and say, oh, I'm putting all the $1,000 into the Apple share. I buy Apple only, and you buy the ETF, which is 500 different companies. One day something happens, and Apple's crumbles. They lose their value. I lose my $1,000, or I lose value in my $1,000. You would not lose so much because you already have an Apple share, but you have different other amount of money in different other companies as well. So you're not taking all of your eggs and just putting them in one basket. So you're spreading around. So whenever one egg is broken or one egg is cracked, the other ones will help you stay afloat. So that's really how it happens. So as a beginner, that's where I would suggest people to look more into. It's easy. You don't have to worry about everything. Anything is insured, and they're doing they're doing things transparently. So you can invest in that and keep documenting yourself. The more you go, the more you will have knowledge, and the better you will understand the rouage and the settings, so you can put your money and know where it goes and be in control of your finances.
yeah. That's really what I was gonna ask you. What is a beginner friendly way for
Mhm.
investing in like cryptocurrency and stock markets? When it comes to the stock markets, one of the biggest challenges is you don't really know where to invest, how
Mhm.
to invest, how much to invest? Like, should you spread it out? Should you focus on two? What do you think are either investments or uh, companies that you feel like are safe investments? And I don't know if there is a safe investment, but I just want to know for the person who's thinking of investing and doesn't really know what to invest in or how to start, what would be your advice to them?
I would say first investment you can do is to invest in yourself. I'm a big believer of teaching people how to fish instead of giving them fish every year. And I believe, like the relationship between money and people, like it's psychological. If you really want your money, you can trust people to invest for you. But if you have the means to control it yourself, I would say go ahead. So, like I said, start by doing those ETFs, those big things that even like we cannot guarantee, no one in the world can guarantee you that tomorrow you're going to win 5% of that of your investment, or 10%. No one can guarantee a constant return on your money. But when we look at data, when we look at the information, when we look at what's happening, when we project ourselves in the future for a company like Apple or Microsoft with AI coming in, we know that the products that they're going to give us is going to generate interest from the public. So we know that it's an investment for sure. So like I said, unless there is a bad thing that happened, like COVID happened, like the war, and those are things that you don't really have control over with, um, you start investing in those. And even when they happen, because always think about long term, even when they happen. In 2020, when COVID hit, everything went down. It was a mayhem. Like everything was red. Like Bitcoin literally went from $13,000 to $3,000 in less than 5 minutes, and all the I believe the stock market, they lost almost 60% of their value. But what's amazing is, like, when you zoom out from 2020 and you look at where the stock market started and to now, you will
Yeah.
always see a 10,000% growth. So when you think about long term, you're always going to get your money back, because no matter how hard times are, humanity will always find a way to get back up and have a flowing economy. So don't think that I'm going to invest today and be rich tomorrow, or in 1 year or 2 years, unless you're lucky and really find an investment that blooms. But definitely think about long-term game. And I would say the secret, what really differentiates, where it becomes pivotal, is where you get the discipline and understand that those crashes and when the market is low is actually a sale for you. Because there's a market crash, one value, Apple's values, I'm just giving an example, went from $100 to $40, and I come and buy it. It's better when I acquire it at $40 than later acquire it at $100, because what I'm going to gain is way much bigger than what you're going to gain. So when they happen, and you know that no matter what happens, they're going to get back up. Sometimes I'm going to be fully honest. It's very selfish. I pray for some crashes, because I'm
Yeah.
like money, but I don't want to buy so high. So when it goes down, I just consider it as a sale, and I buy it at a low price to sell it later at a very higher price. And that's the beginning. There are some other more deep.
Selfish, that's strategic. A
Yeah,
lot of people bought rich people and people who are financially well off. They bought so many homes when the housing market crashed that
absolutely.
now those homes are probably like 400, 500K, and they brought it for like 50, $60,000. So it's definitely a strategic.
When you understand the game between the offer and the demand, you will figure it out all. So I would say first invest in yourself, document yourself, learn about money. Those are basic stuff. You don't need to have a high degree to learn that. Anybody can learn it, and it's available everywhere. There's a website called, that's what I suggest to most of the beginners. It's called investopedia.org. It's like a dictionary, but for like financial terms. Any financial term that you hear, you can go in there and it will explain it to you. Basically, and then after work on that consistency, because it's not easy to invest. You will get money, you will have needs, you will have things that you want to buy off, but you gotta always ask yourself, is it something that I need, is it something that I want, can I have it now, or can I have it later? So once you figure that out, start with the stock markets, because they're the most stable one for now. Cryptocurrencies, they're still young, so highly volatile. Bitcoin was 0.001 dollar and 20 in 2007 2008. In 2021, it went up to one Bitcoin was costing $64,000. Last year, it went down to $22,000. Now it's all back up to $40,000. So the volatility is very high. So unless you really know where to enter and where to exit, you're gonna get screwed up. So that one, I would keep it a little bit later. But now we have ETFs that are coming up that actually got approved and they started investing in Bitcoin, but it's still at a very early age. So you really got to understand the vision of Bitcoin, the technical aspect of Bitcoin, and then the more you go, who knows? You can even become a day trader because there are two types of investment. When we're talking about investment long term, you're talking about at least 6 months to 10 years, or even some people are investing on top of their social security contribution they're investing to when they're about to retire. But there's some people like me, we do day trading, so we like getting money into when we invest, we don't wait for it for a month. We buy now, we sell today, or we buy now, we sell in a week, and all of that. But that is very highly risky, and you have to have some level of information to get in there. But definitely the stocks market, at the same time, try to document yourself. And then the more you go, the more you're going to understand, the more freedom you will have to know where to put your money or where to put what eggs to put in what basket.
Yeah, no, this okay, this definitely needs to be a longer conversation at some point. But because
Yeah.
you're talking, I just have so many questions about just like understanding what is important to invest in.
Mhm.
Okay, so my next question is for the more seasoned investors,
Mhm.
what are the indicators for you? Because I see that on your social media, and if you want to shout out your Instagram or not, we can
Yeah.
do it later.
Yeah.
Okay, so on your social media, you post frequently about investments, and you'll say some things like, "Ooh, thank God I pulled out," or like, "Thank God I got my money," or
Mhm.
you'll kind of share the thought process that goes into your decisions of when to invest and when to take it out. So my
Yeah.
question to you is, for the most seasoned or more seasoned investors, what are indicators to you when you're looking at the market? When
Mhm.
it's time for you to get your money back and put an investment somewhere else? So what are those indicators that, okay, it's time to take the money out of the investment?
Yeah. As you may have seen on my Instagram, we look at charts a lot. And that's
How to read them. I'm just like,
you see greens and reds and a lot of lines and all that, and people are like, what is this? How do you read it? But
yes,
it's
but
basically
it's interesting.
statistics. There are statistics that shows you how well an item is doing, or a commodity or an action is doing. um, that is the first step. That's the first foundational, because it's just statistic you're looking at how high they went, how low they went, and most importantly, what people don't really see is like you gotta analyze the information around. Like if you take Apple for example, or Bitcoin, you have to know what's happening around Bitcoin. You have to know what's happening around Apple, because one tiny information can heavily influence how well things are doing. So I'm gonna give you an example. COVID, when it hit, the day that, like, let's say Apple, when I say Apple and Trump, you're not necessarily gonna find any relationship between the two. But Trump had to go out on a TV, national TV, and said, "Oh, hey, COVID is here, so we're gonna shut the country down. No planes are allowed. Nothing is happening." And instantly, all the airline companies lost their value up to 90% just because of that information. So now,
Wow.
yeah. So if you tell me I'm in investment, but I'm passionate about politics as well, I could see that, hey, as COVID is happening, so I know a lot of countries are going to close their country. So I could definitely take my money out in anticipation, but it's still not 100%. It's still not 100% in anticipation of people closing, and I know if we close the country, a lot of business are not gonna do well. So I can take my money out, and I
Yeah.
know that when Trump or when the president is about to reopen the country, I know that it's a good time to put back invest because economy is gonna start blooming again. So my level of information really gonna impact it. So don't just think about that we just looking at the charts and it's just we have some magic formula and it's coming up right out. It's not coming up because the reason why I always put an emphasis on I'm assuming, I'm predicting is like we cannot know what's happening in the future because there's
Yeah.
a um, scammers, like let's say, especially in Senegal, that will come and tell you, "Hey, invest 1 million, and then you're gonna get 100,000 say CFA every week or every month." That is a scam. That's nowhere. Even the biggest trader in New York, in World Trade, they cannot actually guarantee you a set amount of return. So it really depends on what's happening in the world, what's happening around you, what's happening around that action price. But of course, yeah, looking at the charts is really important because you know in real time what how well the action price is going. We have what we call the volume, is like how much money is inside being traded. If people are buying more than they're selling, or if they're selling more than they're buying, so you have to take into account all of that. Sometimes you have to have like empty nights, you don't even sleep because you have to really
Yeah.
prepare yourself. It's hard, but as long as you stay disciplined, I would say the outcome is perfect.
Wow, thank you. I just feel like you took me on like a roller coaster of knowledge from like education to politics to investing. So I definitely appreciate that. So where we're gonna go now, we're gonna go into like the stimulate your mind segment of the show, where we're gonna play a game. We're gonna play two games. The first game is called Pick One, and that's where I say a name, someone's name. Hopefully you know them. If not,
Mhm.
show you will. But I'll say a name, and then you say the first word that comes to mind when you think of them, and you can decide whether or not you want to explain why you chose that word or just leave it at it as is. Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
So I have six names here for you. I'll say their name and then you tell me a word you're thinking of, okay?
Let's go.
All right. So the first person is Elon Musk.
Bold.
Oh, do you want to explain why or just leave it like that?
Because he's unconventional. um he literally he has so much money that he doesn't care about other people. Like literally last month he was let's go back. He was the first one of the top five richest people on earth that went on a podcast smoking weed without even thinking about the other consequences. Like he lives by his philosophy. He is an unconventional rich because how we know the other rich, they're more like in the political correct. But him, I kind of like his mindset because he is absolutely saying what he's thinking. He's using his freedom of speech,
Yeah,
and the last thing he did was literally because he owned Twitter now, like X
yeah. That was so,
um,
it was,
I'm
I,
so
for
called
me, I was like,
sorry.
wait, there's no strategy behind the thought process. So
I still call
amazing.
it Twitter. So literally, there's a huge debate over there about freedom of speech or information, what is true, what is not. And at some
Yeah,
point, of the biggest companies that were doing advertisement decided to pull out, and he literally came on a big conference and tell them, "F you! Like you trying to threaten me with money? F you! Like go away with your money. I don't need you." And that really sends a message. To tell them that he is not going to be blackmailed by certain lobbyists because unfortunately money talks, and it's a lot of lobbying, a lot of interest and all of that. So I would say
yeah,
he's doing a lot that are kind of like shaking the world right now with his cars and his upcoming robot assistant that are coming. So I'm curious. I'm not going to say I'm with or against him, but I'm curious to see what he's going to do next.
yeah. It's just interesting. Okay, so then I will ask Macky Sall.
Disappointed.
Okay,
very disappointed because I remember in 2012 was one of the first times I got heavily involved in politic talks because before you just used to hear it, but we were like kids, so we probably did not understand much of it. But I still remember how much hope he was portraying and how much people believed in him. And not to say that on a structure wise he hasn't done anything, but he has made the country go back so much in democracy and respecting people's basic needs of human rights that it fades away. And I'm very disappointed by him. And I hope we never have a president like him ever. I don't wish it for anybody. I'm gonna be blunt.
Yeah, because I was doing research on you, and I had went back to like your earlier post, and it seems as though around the election of like Macky Sall first getting into office, you were really championing, his intentions, his message, his goals. You would post about him, and then you could definitely tell. And I think that other people share that sentiment with you of like, we're so excited for him to be
Mm-hmm.
president based on the things that he's done. And I absolutely share that disappointment with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm just so concerned about
And
the
it's like,
future kind of got under his leadership.
yeah, when you think about it, like he was the first president that was coming after the colonialism era. He was someone that lived through injustice while he was in the government. Everybody was rooting for him. And when I look at his interviews before he became president,
Yeah,
when you hear him talk, like you would be like, this is the guy, this is who we need. But he comes in, and the more we go in terms of democracy, people's value, and just politics in general, the more he talks, the more you're disappointed, the more you're like, how can a president say this in public? How can a president look down on their population? And that is really because I'm someone like people say this is a flaw with me because I always believe like we all can be together. Maybe I'm utopic, who knows? But I always believe we all can be together. But as soon as I started in being interested in other young leaders like Chonyo, like Usman Sonko, and all of that, I started feeling the rejection. People starting saying, "Oh, they're not good. You either with us or you're not with us." And I was like, "Okay, so I definitely not with y'all guys because I this is not my value. This is not my vision of how a society would work. We always have our different strength. We have to come together, but our strength should not be challenges. But we have to come together." And yeah, Macky Sall, like I'm definitely disappointed. That's not someone I would take as an example.
yeah. And so with that, I will mention his biggest competitor. My next question is on Usman Sonko. What's the word that comes to mind when you think of Sonko?
Hope, straightforward hope.
Okay.
Um, the same hope we had, but this time is different because before, like, if I have to compare him to Macky Sall, President Macky Sall, it was more of talks, but this time I started getting interested in him when he first had his first book, and it was about the spoliation of our natural resources, especially the
Yeah,
oil. I read it through. So straightforward. I was like, "This guy's onto something," because I always was wishing for having people in occupying the public space, bringing facts, bringing economy, so we can talk about technical aspects, and that's how you start. Because most of the time they will tell you, "Oh, we don't have a high rate of education in Senegal, so that's why we can't really talk about it." But I'm like, you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. Start talking about it. If people are interested, they're going to be interested because it's about their country, it's about their economy. They're going to go with look for the information, and they're going to come back and be part of the debate. So, him really being consistent into asking people to come into societal debates, asking people to come into gathering ourselves, gathering our forces, but most importantly, putting Senegal first, putting your country first. And other people are doing it. And I believe he is someone that can spark some a light into young people. A lot of people are following him, and you cannot go against that. Going
yeah,
against that is literally going against the will of a big portion of your population. So he has a will if the population trusts him enough to make him the leader. Let him be the leader and see him with the actions, like literally. So he represents a lot of hope for people. So that's why we have to be careful, because giving him strength is giving strength to a French of the population, but bringing him down is also bringing down a lot of the chunk of the population. So definitely, I want to see him be active in the society. So I'm asking whoever, again, it has been asked, they're not listening, but we're gonna keep asking. Free
Yeah,
Usman Sonko. Let him come to the public space. Let him be the voice, and let him represent all the voices that have hope on him. So free Usman Sonko and free all other political detainees.
yeah. And for those who may not understand why a large portion of Senegal is so much for Ousmane Sonko, is a word that you've already mentioned, which is the consistency. When you look at his track record, not just with him, his father, and the legacy they have of advocating for Senegal and the needs of Senegal, it's like 35 years worth of
Mhm.
generational, political activism that is kind of hard to go against because you've seen it in their actions prior to the spotlight. And so
Yeah,
it's just now it's just the society catching up to his goals and his impacts and his vision and intention. But he's definitely been singing the same tune, and so that's why it's
absolutely.
so easy to have hope in him. So, lastly, well, I kind of want to ask you about two more people. Okay, so the next one is Donald Trump.
I have one of my friends, Met Nation. He is confused.
Mm.
That's the word, confused. Because I'm gonna say it straight. He is a personage. He is really a character. Um, when you look at all the controversy that has been around him, regardless, when you look at the numbers when he was here, things were actually going fine, better than what we have with Biden right now. Now, if you go to the way he communicates, now if you go to the way he treats certain minorities, or the words he has to work them, he has to work a lot on them, and I think it's due to the fact that he's still having some ties with some very conservative, not to say racial, organizations in the United States. So I know he's running again. We most likely gonna have him versus Biden again. But I'm as equally disappointed in Biden as well, because
Very disappointed.
the hope, yeah, I had with him, and all I can see is like taking our tax money and funding war in Ukraine and funding the genocide in Palestine. I would rather have someone, at least Trump, even if he was using forces, we have some sort of stability in the world, and you could not do whatever you want. But I can say that in Biden's administration, that is lacking. It's in his leadership, and in terms of like portraying how we know the United States, even if sometimes they kind of like wrongfully taking action against other countries, but at least there was some stability right there, because it's very complex. That's why I'm saying I'm very confused about Donald Trump. But
Me too, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah, I'm very confused about him. I do not agree with his philosophy, the way he's doing things. But when we just look at facts, we've had better time with him than Mr. Biden.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I feel like I found myself very confused. And I don't know if you saw, but Donald Trump is tied with like immigrant voter
Yeah.
uh, with Biden, and that just shows that people are also aligning with you. That
Mhm.
even the demographics that people think Trump are against, they are also confused on who to vote for between Biden and Trump. And I just think that we're in a very dangerous place in society where we are so confused by our political leaders that we actually don't even know who to invest in. So
Absolutely, and it's very it's. And it's very sad. That's what I was saying. It's very sad that we only have them two as an option. I've seen so many young leaders, so many promising leaders in
Yeah,
here, in the Republican Party, in the Democratic Party, and literally they should have been the one that are put into the forefront of the events so they can take, because like they already did their time. Let's give it to the new generation. And that's why I say I'm confused, because I don't necessarily identify myself 100% as a Democrat, but I identify myself 100% as a Republican. Each one of them, they have their pros and their cons. And
yeah,
lately, I have to say, we have to really say it the way that the Democratic Party is funding with our tax money. I'm saying it again, funding our tax money with the genocide happening in Palestine. That should stop. That's against the value of what we know as a Democratic Party.
yeah. No, I definitely I agree with you. I don't identify with one political party because I just feel like Democrats don't do enough for Black and Brown people because they feel like our vote is almost automatic,
Yeah,
and then Republicans are so conservative in their views that sometimes our views or our, I guess, what's important to us doesn't align. Like the Black and Brown community doesn't align with those who are conservative, and so I'm very much so in the middle and trying to figure out where I stand. But thank you. I appreciate you playing that game. And we just have one more game for you before we let you go.
I get you.
Um, so I've been like shuffling them as you're talking, but I wanted to pull a card from a card
Mhm.
game, and usually just ask really random questions. And so I'm gonna like shuffle them and see what to ask. But it's from the card game is tonight's conversation, and the hope of it is to kind of ask like a unconventional question that maybe we wouldn't ask in an interview. Uh, okay, I'm not going to ask this one because you just answered it. What
Mhm.
political party do you most identify with? Okay. Um,
Middle.
yeah, we already talked about that. Let me make something else. Oh. Do you feel both partners should contribute equally to all household bills? Why or why not?
I'm gonna go very conservative here.
Okay.
I don't think it's an. I believe into the man contributing and taking care of the house and the wife and everything, but
Mhm.
that's not an excuse for the wife not to work or being independent on themselves. Because, as you know, coming from a Senegalese background, is more is religious wise, cultural wise, if that thing, but it got us to a point where I believe women would just exist so to get beautiful and get married by a rich man and just not be independent. And that's very dangerous, because I don't wish it, but if something happens, you lose your husband or you get divorced, how are you going to take care of yourself from now? And me, if I'm marrying you, and I see that as a societal project, because we are going to give birth to children. And before my children go, or our children go to take example on Warren Buffett or Elon Musk or anybody, I need them to take example on me and on you as women. And I've been around strong women, independent women, still being tied to their culture so much that they're the one that actually inspire me the most. So definitely, I would say if the woman wants to participate, they can, definitely, but I would bring that responsibility upon the man. But I still would ask for the sake of being an example and a really great inspiration for our children, I would still want to see my woman having degree, being independent, taking care of them themselves. That doesn't mean that you cannot put in everything. The only place where I would probably ask you to invest is in the education of your child, so that way, whenever we have a decision to make, you have your say as well. So you don't. It's not just me. I'm providing and I'm giving. It's very complex what I'm saying. I don't know if the audience is gonna
Yeah,
understand
I
that.
get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I the basics. I'm gonna take care of it, but you don't have to do it. But it's not an excuse for you just to stay and not do anything. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I definitely I still believe in like the traditional conventional way of a union and like
Mm,
men being leaders, especially um, highlighting being leaders in a relationship financially. But I
mm,
also do think that while one partner is leading in the now, you should be thinking about the future. Like just because your
absolutely.
money is going to bills, I should be using my money for like investments, making sure that our children's college fund is fully funded. So like you should still be bringing something in that's going to contribute to the family, but I don't believe like the sole financial burden should be on the woman, which I'm sure you agree with. So I definitely see where you're like, hey, make sure you're investing in our children's future and investing in that. It's not just we're in a relationship, I'm taking care of 100 like things 100%, but also making sure that while I'm taking care of the now, you're still thinking of the future and making sure we're prepared as a unit. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. I totally agree. But yeah, I wanted to thank you for joining the podcast. I learned so much about you, and I think that this will definitely be a beneficial episode for anyone watching because we just spoke about so many things as it relates to politics and shifting your mindset and education and how your maybe childhood can impact the way you grow up in society and how you plan to invest back into society. So I really want to thank you for joining and dropping all those gems on us. And I also wanted to know if there's any way that someone can get in contact with you or what are your social medias? How can people get in contact?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to thank you for having me. I had a blast. We planned for 1 hour, but we literally went to 2 hours, and we
Over
just
to you.
scratched the surface. But I
Yeah,
had a blast. I want to thank you for your professionalism and this. I would call it movement that you just started, making people discover what is behind all this path and successes we're seeing. I think it will be important into inspiring others to do the same. So I just hope what I've shared here is going to be beneficial to your audience, and I hope we're going to meet again. I definitely enjoyed the talk, so whenever you feel like it, I'm down for it. And I really, like I said, salute the initiative, and I know people are going to benefit from it. So it's a big shout out to you because what you're doing is making sure people are getting the right information, people are being exposed to the right people, and take it from there. So definitely kudos to you. As far as reaching me, I have my Instagram. That's where I post the most, which is Preezy, PREEZH, or you just write my full name.
yeah,
Pape Kane. You'll be able to see me. I have some private cohort that I do, but they're not so consistent. And like I said, it's more like mentoring high schoolers into knowing their skills, where they can thrive, so that they have at least the necessary tools to choose their path when going to high school or when going to university or college. Um, I also have a project of it's going to be disclosed to the public very soon. I really want to push those talks.
if you want to let us know. Yeah, for sure.
I really want to push the talks, especially in our parliamentary system. Really start having consistent and concrete and persistent talks about reforming our education in Senegal. I believe if we want to jumpstart our country, we have to start at a very early age. If we want the kids to really have that notion of civism, loving your country, representing your country, being proud of your country, we should not wait until they're adults or teenagers. We have to start very early. So reforming the education from the foundation to all the way to college, bringing those movement, starting an organization soon that's going to work towards that. I will open it to the public very soon, and it's going to be on my Instagram and by branch touching the Alfie program as well. So hopefully it's going to do something good for our country. So definitely be on the lookout for that as well.
No, absolutely. And please let us know when it comes out so we can share it with our audience as well. But thank
Absolutely.
you so much for joining. I really appreciated this conversation, and I hope you'll come back for a larger discussion because we definitely need to break these topics down.
Thank you. We will uncensor a lot of and unpack a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you all for joining episode 2 of Highlighting Our Stars, and we hope to see you in the next episode.
Thank you. Bye bye.